Chapter 523. What? Li Yun almost jumped out of her seat. Why is there a traffic jam? Li Yun couldn't be bothered to flirt with her daughter anymore. She pressed down on the window and looked at the long line of cars in front of her. She said angrily, "The traffic of a city represents the level of governance of the city." The traffic jam appeared out of nowhere. It proves that the leadership of the city is not good enough. Because she was too anxious, Li Yun could only vent her anger on the city manager. Li Yun looked at her watch. There were only 20 minutes left until the signing ceremony. They were going to report to the media about the signing ceremony of the 3 companies. She was the person in charge of Hua Xia Investment Group. She could be said to be the main organizer and initiator. If she couldn't get to the venue in time, what would happen to the signing ceremony? Should he postpone the time or find someone else to stand up and replace him? If she delayed it, the auspicious hour would be missed. The old master of the Lan family still believed in these supernatural things. He had specially asked a master to look at it. Finding another person to stand up and sign on his behalf, although it was just a statement, the people outside would interpret it differently. Everyone knew that Jiang Zhuliu's Longtu group had the unconditional support of the Jiang family and the limited cooperation of the Lan family. If the Jiang family didn't appear in the signing ceremony jointly organized by the 3 families, how would others view Jiang Zhulu? How would they view the Jiang family? Or rather, how would they interpret the relationship between the 2 families? Li Yun glanced at the assistant in the front passenger seat and said, "Jiang Shifeng, go out and see what's going on." "Yes, madam." The man in glasses got out of the car and walked forward quickly. Soon, Jiang Shifeng went back to the front passenger seat and said, "Madam, they said there was a car accident in front. A few cars had a series of collisions." "Oh my God." Li Yun touched her forehead. If it was a normal traffic accident, they might be able to pass after waiting for a few minutes. However, if it was a series of collisions, the situation would be very troublesome. If there were casualties, it was very likely that the traffic would be blocked for a few hours. "Jiang Shifeng, call the mayor of Huaqing." Li Yun said, "Ask them to solve this problem immediately." "Madam, I'm afraid we don't have enough time." Jiang Shifeng reminded. "Even if Mayor Zhang calls the traffic police to deal with it, we won't have enough time." "Are there any other routes?" Li Yun asked. "There's a subway line that can reach it," General Shifeng said. "Get out." Before Li Yun could finish her sentence, she was the first to open the door and jump out. Shangxin and Shifeng followed closely behind. They did not dare to let Li Yun squeeze into the subway alone. Looking at the dense crowd in front of her, Li Yun felt a little dizzy. She had never squeezed into a subway before. She thought that by buying a ticket, she could quickly wait for a train, and then the train would rumble forward with them. That wasn't the case at all right? All the ticket vending machines had long queues, and all the ticket booths were overcrowded. It would take at least a few minutes to get a ticket. However, in this world, things were easy with money. The young men who blocked Shifeng took out a few bills from their pockets and handed them over, saying, "Young man, we are in a hurry. Can we buy the tickets in your hands?" The young people had enough time but not too much money, so they immediately agreed to the deal that seemed very fair to them. General Shifeng brought Li Yun and Shangxin into the subway station. They didn't have to wait for long before a train arrived. When Shifeng finally escorted Li Yun and Shangxin onto the train, he realized that there were no seats on the train. Not only were there no seats, but it was also very crowded to stand. People squeezed against each other, hot sweat flowed freely, and the air was abnormally turbid. Li Yun and Shangxin tried their best to hold their breaths, but there was still a pungent smell entering their nostrils. As Li Yun and Shangxin's image was too outstanding, many people were sizing them up. Some people with ulterior motives also started to walk over, and the space they could move around became more and more crowded. "Scram!" Jiang Shangxin suddenly shouted. A long-haired man standing in front of Jiang Shangxin glared at her angrily and scolded, "Wretched woman, who are you asking to scram? Do you think that this subway belongs to you? Others can only get on if you allow them to? Others can't get on if you don't allow them to? You know what you have done. Do you believe that I will cripple your dirty hands if you dare to touch me again?" When had Jiang Shangxin ever suffered such grievances? Not only was she taken advantage of, but she was also insulted and disgusted. Her anger surged. I groped you? I think you are the one who touched me, right? I can tell from the way you dress that you are a mistress of some man. I can tell that you are a green TB asterisk teach. I know women like you the best. You're debauched to the bone, but your heart is very empty. You pounce on handsome men when you see them. Don't lean on me if you are so capable. Tell me what you said one more time, will you? When did I look at you? I feel disgusted when I see you. Do you like to hear it? If you like it, you can repeat it 100 times. I can tell that you are. Bam. Jiang Shangxin need the crew cut. The crew cut howled and fell to the ground with his hands on his stomach. But, seeing that Jiang Shangxin had kicked him without saying a word, the people around him immediately dispersed. The perverts who were dilly-dallying on Jiang Shangxin's body were gone. The suffocating and narrow space had increased by a few times. Even the air they breathed felt much fresher. Help, I am going to die. Call the police. I am going to die. The long-haired man rolled on the ground and shouted, Idiot! Jiang Shangxin scolded him with a look of disdain. Beating up a sex maniac wasn't a big deal to her. Jiang Shangxin guarded Shi Feng by Li Yun's side and avoided the perverts who dared to touch his big boss. However, he had to take good care of his boss's daughter. He stared coldly at the long-haired man who was lying on the ground and took out his phone to make a call. They were only 3 stops away from the Longtu building. They reached their destination very quickly. When they alighted, the long-haired man tried to stop them but was pushed to the ground by Shi Feng. When the long-haired man tried to get up again, 2 police officers ran over and caught him. Shi Feng looked at the 2 police officers and said, I don't have much time to explain. You can check the surveillance footage in the car and you will know the situation. This is my name card, you can contact me anytime. After he finished speaking, he quickly chased after Li Yun and Jiang Shangxin, who were already in front of him. The long-haired man was dumbfounded. He looked at the 2 police officers and smiled. Police officers, who did I offend? How would I know who you offended? The middle-aged police officer said angrily, I only know that Bureau Chief Wang from the municipal police station called Bureau Chief Lin and asked us to come over to handle a molestation case. Police officers, this is a misunderstanding. I didn't stand properly and touch the woman's breasts. I didn't do it on purpose. You know that such things can't be avoided in a car. Li Yun's phone rang again after they got out of the subway station. Li Yun took a look at the caller ID and answered the call immediately. She smiled and said, Jiang Ling, what's the matter? Fourth aunt, have you arrived? I was stuck on the road just now. They said that there was a series of collisions in front. I had no choice but to leave the car and take the subway here. I will reach Longtu building in a few minutes. Li Yun explained, have you received the military order? I was stuck on the road. Jiang Junling said, you can start first, don't wait for me. Okay, I will sign with them first. Li Yun smiled and said, Jiang Ling, you don't have to rush. It won't delay anything. Thank you, fourth aunt, Jiang Junling said. After hanging up the phone, Li Yun said to Jiang Shangxin, fortunately, we arrived in time. I wanted Jiang Junling to come forward and sign on our behalf. I didn't expect him to be stuck on the road too. Someone from the Jiang family has to step forward for this signing ceremony. So annoying. Jiang Shangxin said unhappily, those people are so uncultured. All right. Li Yun comforted her and said, the world is so big and full of strange things. There are good people and bad people, this is a matter of course. You usually have a luxurious car and a clean foot. You have been away from society for too long. To many people, what you encountered today is not a problem at all. They crossed the pedestrian bridge and walked towards the majestic Longtu building. Just as they reached the entrance, they saw a group of workers in Longtu uniforms gathering in their direction. The security guards of Longtu building were running out and getting ready to chase these people out. However, these workers were very cunning. They chased after them and came back again when they stopped. Both parties were playing hide and seek. The reporters who were waiting for the signing ceremony to begin in the hall got the news and came out to film this scene. Li Yun's heart skipped a beat. She finally realized that perhaps all natural disasters were man-made disasters. From the inexplicable series of collisions to the workers gathering to create trouble, it was all secretly planned by someone. Someone didn't want the three parties to cooperate and wanted to smear layers of dog sh*T on their faces. Chapter 524. Sir, may I know why all of you are gathered here? The reporter randomly pulled an old man for an interview and pointed the camera at his wrinkled face. We want an explanation. The old man said with a lisp, we are all workers from the Jiahua Electronics Factory. Jiahua Electronics Factory? The reporter was obviously stunned. He smiled and said, Sir, this is the Longtu building. Did you get the wrong place? We didn't get the wrong place. We are looking for Longtu Corporation. They were the ones who bought over the Jiahua Electronics Factory and used a fake contract to buy out all of us old workers. Not only did they kick us out of the factory, they also cut off our medical insurance. We are old now and can't work anymore. Furthermore, we are sick. When we went to the Jiahua Electronics Factory, the director said that he had nothing to do with this matter and that Longtu Corporation was responsible for taking care of us. Only then did we realize that Longtu Corporation had tricked us. How are we going to survive? Sir, did you bring the buyout contract from before? We brought it all. The old man took out a yellowed paper bag from his pocket. The reporter reached out to take it, but the old man quickly held it in his arms and said, Don't tell me you are in cahoots with them? I heard that there are many bad people among the reporters. Sir, we are not bad people. If what you said is true, we will find a way to seek justice for you. Sir, we will not accept your contract. You can spread it out and let our cameraman take a shot of the contract. In this way, Li Yun's face was pale and her eyes were filled with anger as she walked toward the Longtu building. After Shangxin took a look at the contract from another worker, she quickly caught up with her mother, Li Yun, and said, the Jiang family's acquisition of the Jiahua Electronics Factory back then was indeed dishonest. However, one party was willing to take the hit, and the other party was willing to take the hit. Since they had signed the contract, they should have followed the contract. However, someone exposed them at this crucial point. It was obvious that they were trying to embarrass us. Fang Yan. Li Yun gritted her teeth and shouted this name. In Huaqing, only Fang Yan dared to go against them. Only he had the ability to trample on the faces of the Jiang clan and the Lan clans so ruthlessly under his feet. With Du Qing's help, Fang Yan was like a tiger that had grown wings. It could really be him. Jiang Shangxin chuckled and said, this guy never seems to be willing to lose out. After Jiang Junling plotted against them, he immediately gave us a show of strength. His power in Flower City is truly shocking. A single command is enough to make it difficult for us to move an inch. Hearing her daughter's words, Li Yun's heart sank even faster. He didn't go directly to the conference room where the signing ceremony would be held. Instead, he took the elevator to Jiang Zhulio's office. Jiang Zhulu came out and said with a serious expression, Mom, did you see everything? Yes, Li Yun said expressionlessly. Zhulu, what do you plan to do? I've already asked the group's legal department to negotiate with them. Jiang Zhulu invited the three of them to his office to rest. After the secretary served tea and left, Jiang Zhulu said, but for them to jump out at this time, they're definitely not here with good intentions. I'm afraid that they will demand an exorbitant price. We were stuck in traffic on the way here. Li Yun said. They said that there was a series of car collisions ahead, and because they were afraid of delays, they had to take the subway to rush over. The military order is still stuck on the road and won't be here for a while. They asked us to start first and not wait for him. Jiang Zhulio's expression darkened, and he said fiercely, the Lan clan called just now. They said that they were also stuck on the road. I'm afraid that they won't be here for a while. Fang Yan has started to retaliate. Otherwise, how could it be so coincidental? Damn Du Qing. Li Yun said, Fang Yan has started to retaliate. Only he has such capabilities and guts. Jiang Zhulu sneered and said, it's hard for him to stop the three of us from joining forces, so he can only use such underhanded methods to obstruct us and create some difficulties for us, to embarrass himself. Is this just some underhanded methods? Jiang Shangxin said with a cold expression. We were stuck in the middle of the traffic, and we had no choice but to abandon the car and take the subway. We were molested on the subway and even called the police for help. Just as we walked to the entrance of Longtu building, we saw the workers protesting against Longtu's previous overbearing contract, and the reporters were fighting to report on it. If this matter isn't handled well, Longtu Group's reputation will be tarnished. If we want to settle this matter properly, we have to satisfy those workers' exorbitant demands. If we satisfy them, what about the other workers? Today, dozens of workers gathered at the entrance of Longtu building to protest. If your legal department agrees to their harsh conditions today, there will be thousands of people gathering at the entrance of Longtu building to protest tomorrow. Is this trouble just a small trouble to you? To encounter so many troublesome matters so early in the morning, I'm afraid that this collaboration, Shangxin. Li Yun shouted sternly and interrupted what Jiang Shangxin was about to say. She said, since it has already happened, think about how to settle it. What's the use of blaming each other? Jiang Shangxin knew that her mother didn't want to see a dispute between her and Jiang Zhulu, so she turned her face away unhappily. Jiang Zhulu walked quickly to Jiang Shangxin and asked with a concerned look, molested on the subway? What exactly happened? Where is the person who molested you? I want him to suffer a fate worse than death. Li Yun took a look at Jiang Zhulu and said, all right, Zhu, the matter has already passed. We have already called the police, and the police will punish him. What we need to do now is to settle the matter that happened right under our noses. Jiang Zhulu looked at Jiang Shangxin with a pitiful gaze, then turned around and said to Li Yun, I will call the Lan family again. No matter what, the signing ceremony must be held as per normal. Li Yun raised her wrist and looked at her watch. She said, the previously confirmed time has already passed. Let's see when they will be able to rush over. Let's choose another time. Jiang Zhulu immediately called the Lan family's representative. Lan Ling informed him that they would need another half an hour to rush over, and he apologized repeatedly over the phone. Jiang Zhulu comforted Lan Ling, hung up the phone, and said to Li Yun, let's sign at 11:30. We are fine with it. Li Yun frowned and said, get the assistant to give each of the reporters a red packet. Make it bigger and say more nice things. Also, get someone to call the media leaders who came today and ask them not to report negative news about Longtu Group. Report more positive news. I understand. Jiang Zhulu nodded and said, Fang Yan knew about the Longtu Group's misfortune, and he knew that this was Du Qing's doing. As a veteran local tyrant in Huaqing, it was very easy for him to make Jiang Junling and the rest suffer. It was too easy to cause a traffic jam. Once they knew the exact time of the signing ceremony, they could get their underlings to find out the route that the important figures of the Lan family would be driving on, and then create some trouble at key locations. These little tricks couldn't hurt anyone, but they were enough to disgust people. Furthermore, it made it hard for people to vent their anger. Everyone would feel very uncomfortable if such an incident happened on such a joyous day. The real killer move was still the trouble caused by the employees of Jiahua Electronics Factory. No matter how Jiang Zhulu and the rest solved this problem, they would only be losers. If they compensated those troublemakers, what kind of compensation would be given to the other factories that were acquired and the existing workers? One had to know that Longtu had set up quite a number of contract traps for its expansion in the past few years. Those workers couldn't see it themselves, but Fang Yan and Du Qing didn't mind stepping up to be angels who took pleasure in helping others. If they refused to compensate those troublemakers, the overwhelming news from the media would make them infamous. The sharpest tool to kill wasn't the knife, but the brain. Of course, most people couldn't use the second tool well. When Fang Yan drove back, he kept feeling that a car was following him. He turned east and the car followed him. He turned west and the car followed him. Fang Yan drove towards the Pearl River area. After parking the car by the Pearl River, he went straight to a tea house by the river. Shui Wuxia Tea House. Fang Yan chose a table near the window and ordered a pot of Dongting Biluakan tea. Not long after, a beautiful woman walked over, pulled out a chair, and sat opposite Fang Yan. The woman looked around and said with infinite grievance, "Aren't you supposed to treat me to a meal? I'm hungry, I can't drink tea. I promised someone that I would go back for a meal." Fang Yen said, "So I can only treat you to tea." Lu Chaoga? The woman chuckled. "I heard that you're living a comfortable life in Huaqing? You're even playing the game of keeping a mistress?" Fang Yen held the teacup and drank the tea, saying, "My life is all right. If you think I'm a mistress, I'm indeed being kept in a mistress house." The woman giggled, her delicate red lips exuding a fatal charm. She played with her slightly curly hair with one finger, looked at Fang Yen sitting opposite her and said, "You really don't know your place. What kind of mistress are you? Lu Chaoga is the real mistress. You and Lu Chaoga flirting in Huaqing, aren't you afraid that the Yi girl will be jealous?" Fang Yen thought about it, then said, "She won't be jealous." "Liar." The woman sneered. "In this world, there are only women who don't love you. Which woman won't be jealous?" Chapter 525. The girl's words weren't unreasonable. In this world, there were only women who didn't love you. How could there be a woman who wouldn't be jealous? If a woman loved you wholeheartedly, then she would want your body to be hers, your heart to be hers, your house to be hers, your car to be hers, the diamond ring to be yours, and your bank card to be hers. Based on Fang Yan's understanding of Yi Ro, although she always looked like a calm and indifferent fairy, she was actually a little petty deep down. Not only was she brutal and violent, she also liked to hold grudges. Most importantly, she would definitely take revenge. If she knew that he was living with Lu Chaoga, she would definitely be secretly angry. When the anger accumulated to a certain extent, it would turn into a powerful bomb and explode. Fang Huohua would be beaten to death by her again. Moreover, Fang Yen knew that she definitely knew that he was living with Lu Chaoga, who asked him to have too many spies around him. Sometimes, Fang Yen would also reflect, Yi Ro had so many flaws, why did he agree to be her boyfriend? Even if she once hugged his thigh and begged him to be her boyfriend, he shouldn't have been soft-hearted and agreed. One's life was important, and he couldn't be careless. It wasn't like he didn't understand this principle. Too soft-hearted. This was Fang Yan's evaluation of himself. Fang Yan looked at the girl sitting opposite him gloomily and said, "Why did you come to Huaqing again?" "I came to see you." The girl said, "I was afraid that you weren't doing well, so I came to see, but after following you secretly for 2 days, I realized that you were doing better than I imagined. Since you see that I'm doing well, you should quickly go back." Fang Yan said, "Huaqing is in troubled times, don't get involved." "What? Is someone bullying you again?" The girl raised her eyebrows. Obviously, she didn't like to hear people bullying Fang Yan. Fang Yan shook his head. "I'm bullying someone." "That's great." The woman almost jumped with joy. "Who is so lucky to be bullied by you?" "I like to bully people the most." "Fang Yan, let me help you bully people?" Seeing Fang Yan smiling bitterly without saying anything, the girl said with a displeased expression, "So stingy. It was rare to find a fun game. Wouldn't it be better for everyone to play together? I'm bored to death." Fang Yan looked at the girl's beautiful face with a serious expression and said softly, "For you, everything is just a game?" The girl's face darkened. She held the teacup and lowered her head to drink. When she raised her head again, her playful and joyful expression returned. She said, "Fang Yan, are you still blaming me? Blame me for not choosing you back then? Are you blaming me for not accepting your pursuit?" Fang Yan was extremely angry and said, "Do you know that there is a saying, young and ignorant? Who didn't do a few stupid things when they were young? They thought that there were treasures in the ditch, that there was a dragon palace in the back mountain, that they jumped down from the top of a 3-story building with an umbrella, kicked their legs, and said that they knew Qigong. When they saw a woman with big breasts, they thought it was his first love." Fang Yan. The girl was so angry that the teacup in her hand creaked. It was as if the teacup made of porcelain could not bear the weight and could break at any time. Fang Yan drank his tea calmly, not caring about the girl's angry attitude at all. The girl was angry for a while, put the teacup in her hand on the table, crossed her fingers, and looked at Fang Yan with a smile. She said, "Yi Ru's breasts are not as big as mine, right?" Puff! Fang Yan spat out the tea in his mouth and looked for a tissue to wipe his mouth in a panic. The girl looked at Fang Yan's embarrassment and giggled, as if she had gotten her revenge. Fang Yen wiped the water stains on the table and the corners of his mouth with a tissue. He stared at the girl angrily and said, "And Xiao Xiao, can you be serious? We are talking about our first love." And Xiao Xiao was the name of Phoenix. Fang Yen liked to call her by this name when he was angry. Of course, most people called her Phoenix Girl. "You were the one who didn't get serious first." The girl raised her nose slightly and said disdainfully, "You were the one who said that when he saw a woman with big breasts, he thought it was his first love, but you still can't compare with Yururu." "Why can't I compare with her?" The girl asked back, "Isn't Yururu a woman? Is she as big as my breasts?" "Fang Yen, how did you fall in love with Yururu? Didn't you hate her the most in the past?" The girl looked at Fang Yen sitting across from her and said, "Do you still remember? Every time she beat you black and blue, she would tear off your arm and break your leg bones. Every time you fought with her, you would go to me to treat and bandage your wounds. You said you had never seen such a violent woman. You said she was the ugliest woman in the world. You also said that such a woman would never be able to get married. You said that even if you liked a pig, you wouldn't like Yururu. Why don't you like a pig?" Fang Yan's expression was a little embarrassed. He said with a red face, "That was in the past. After I got to know her more, I realized that Yururu was actually a good person. Although she was very violent, she was kind at heart. Although she always beats me black and blue, that's because I provoked her first. She tore off my arm and broke my leg bones. That was also to encourage me to make progress, hoping that I could achieve something in martial arts." "You men," the girl's smile was very bitter. She said, "You are all born liars." Fang Yen looked at the girl and said, "I didn't lie to you. When I liked you, I really liked you. How could he not really like her?" He tried to find reasons to meet her, racked his brains to please her, and his heart was bleeding when he saw her dating other boys. He thought about her when he ate, thought about her when he slept. The first thing he did when he opened his eyes was to ask her if she had a good sleep last night. The last thing he did before going to bed was to ask her to sleep early and not to stay up late. At that time, he liked her without any distractions. At that time, she was the sky and the whole world. "When you don't like me, you really don't like me anymore, right?" the girl asked. Fang Yen was silent. After a while, he looked at the girl and said with a smile, "You and Bai Xiu, aren't you good?" "Fang Yen, do you like Bai Xiu?" the girl asked. Fang Yen said straightforwardly, "Who would like their rival in love?" The girl smiled charmingly. "You're such a straightforward fellow. You wouldn't believe me even if I said I liked him," Fang Yen said with a smile. "Bai Xiu is more handsome than you, more knowledgeable than you, and better at kung fu than you. That's why you don't like him, right? Yi Gentle is prettier than you, more elegant than you, and better at kung fu than you. That's why you said her breasts aren't as big as yours, right?" Fang Yen and Xiao Xiao, the two glared at each other fiercely, neither willing to admit defeat. After a while, Fang Yen moved his gaze away first and said, "You still haven't answered me. Why did you come to Flower City at this time?" "I already answered you. I thought your life in Flower City was miserable, so I came to see you. I didn't expect you to hide a mistress and live a better life than I imagined." "I'll tell Yi Gentle when I get back. Do you think she'll believe you?" "Of course she won't believe me," the Phoenix said with a proud expression, "but she'll definitely bear a grudge against me. She's already known. It's not scary for a woman to be smart, but it's scary for a woman to play dumb. It's one thing for her to know, but if I say it in front of her, 'Why are you doing this to me?' 'Because I hate you.'" The two each had their own thoughts as they sipped their tea. Their gazes were leisurely cast on the surface of the Pearl River. The breeze on the river was cool, but both of them felt a bit gloomy. It was as if something wanted to break out of their bodies, but couldn't break through their skin and flesh. It was extremely uncomfortable. On the river, there were cruises full of tourists, as well as single-person ferries. They were the scenery for the customers, and the tea houses were also the scenery for them. At this time, Fang Yan's gaze met with a man's. It was a very strange pair of eyes. They were very gentle, but they contained a powerful force. Coming into contact with them was like being punched in the eye socket. His eyes were sore and swollen, and tears flowed down his face. Unleashing one's martial prowess was a madman. Fang Yen didn't like this feeling, so he looked for that pair of eyes again. He quickly found his target. It was a passenger on a canoe. The man wasn't tall, and he was slightly chubby. His hair was very short, so short that it was next to his scalp. He was wearing a set of brown sportswear, and he looked extremely inconspicuous at first glance. However, Fang Yen just happened to know that this person had the aura of a dragon and the aura of a tiger. He was extremely aggressive. Fang Yen shifted his gaze again, which surprised the man. His eyes were locked on Fang Yen, and he once again swept over with his dignity. To his surprise, the aura of a murderous aura was like a stone sinking into the sea, and it didn't cause any waves. The young man sitting in the tea house was still looking at him calmly with a faint smile on his face, as if he was laughing at his useless efforts. Just as he was about to test it again, his eyes suddenly felt as if they were being pricked by a sharp needle. He covered his eyes with both hands, and his body retreated repeatedly. The man knew that he had been sneak attacked by the young man. He had just used a visual attack on the other party, and the other party had also used a visual attack on him. Visual attack? That young man actually knew how to use a visual attack? The man didn't get angry. Instead, he laughed. After rubbing his eyes, he once again walked to the edge of the canoe and used the body freezing technique to stop the boat from moving on the river. He directly shouted towards the tea house, "The lady in red on the second floor, would you accompany me on the boat to enjoy the scenery?" Phoenix had long since discovered the flirtatious glances between Fang Yen and the strange man on the canoe. Hearing him shout towards her, and the fact that she was the only lady on the second floor, and she just so happened to be wearing a red dress, she couldn't help but become angry. In a tender voice, she scolded, "Who are you talking to if I poke out your dog eyes?" Chapter 526. With you, of course. Seeing Phoenix's anger, the man didn't seem to mind at all and continued to boast shamelessly. "The only person who can catch my eye on both sides of the Pearl River is you. Would you be willing to give me face and take a boat to the west to see the scenery on both sides of the river?" "I'm not interested in watching the scenery with you," Phoenix said with an unfriendly expression. This was the first time she was being teased in public. In the past, it was always her who teased others, like Fang Yen. "Miss, you're not giving me any face," the strange man on the boat laughed and said. The strange man on the boat chuckled and said, "Miss, why don't you discuss it with the pretty boy opposite you? Maybe he'll agree to my request. Let your mother accompany you," Phoenix cursed. As she spoke, she had already thrown the teacup in her hand. Whoosh! The teacup jumped out of the window, pierced through the air, and smashed towards the man's face with a whistling sound. As fast as a meteor, it arrived in the blink of an eye. But the man grabbed with one hand and the teacup landed in his palm. He drank the remaining tea in the cup in one gulp, greedily kissed the rim of the cup, and loudly praised, "Good tea, fragrant tea. Good tea, fragrant tea." "You pervert." Phoenix grabbed the teapot and was about to throw it at the man again. "The tea has been drunk, the teacup is returned." The man flicked his finger and the teacup flew back at an even faster speed. But Phoenix slapped the teacup away with her palm. Before it could reach her face, she had already used her internal energy to slap it away. But the teacup lost its momentum and fell into the Pearl River in front of her. She wouldn't touch something that had been used by others, and the man had even kissed the rim of the teacup, which made her feel even more disgusted. The man laughed and said, "Miss, you're so irritable. I'm afraid your inner fire is rising, and your yin and yang are not in harmony. I have a side that can cure you. Would you like to try?" This time, not only was Phoenix's expression embarrassed, but even Fang Yen was furious. He casually threw the teacup in his hand over. The teacup was filled with tea, and it spun rapidly like a top as it flew towards the man's face. "I'm not interested in a man's teacup." As the man spoke, he reached out to slap the teacup that Fang Yen had thrown at him away. But when the strength of his palm came into contact with the rotating teacup, the teacup suddenly exploded. The shards of the teacup shattered and shrouded the man's body. The tea in the teacup splashed everywhere, splashing all over the man's face and body. The man stood there in a daze for a long time, then burst out laughing. Beautiful. It was simply too beautiful. Whirlwind explosion. One whirlwind, one world. It is difficult for external forces to fuse, and it is difficult for external objects to enter. Touching it would break the balance and cause one's body to explode. I didn't expect to see an expert who can use whirlwind explosion on the Pearl River, the man shouted loudly. He shouted to Fang Yen in the tea house, "Brother, what's your name?" He had just called Fang Yen a gigolo, but now he was calling him brother in the blink of an eye. This man's moral integrity, it was so insignificant that it could be ignored. Fang Yen replied in a deep voice, "Don't call me brother." He was not willing to be brothers with others easily. Fang Yen? Are you brother Fang Yen from Swallow Dock's Fang Tai Chi? Fang Yan's eyes turned cold and he said, "That's me." No wonder. The man praised and said, "It's said that Fang Tai Chi has a successor and is the rising star of the Tai Chi branch. Seeing you today, it really lives up to its reputation. Who are you?" Fang Yen asked loudly. Fang Yen had no impression of this man at all, but the man clearly knew his identity. This was a very bad feeling, and it also made him feel insecure, as if he was being coveted. "Ho Zhendong," the man replied loudly, "my friends who have met me call me martial arts fanatic." Martial arts fanatic? Fang Yen was stunned. This ordinary-looking middle-aged man with a wretched manner was martial arts fanatic, one of Hua Xia's 7 fanatics? Fang Yen felt as if his faith had collapsed. Music fanatic, who could make his Tai Chi heart resonate strongly and cause his clothes to explode, was a godlike character that he could never forget. Why did martial arts fanatic, who was as famous as music fanatic, look like a tragic tram fanatic? How could such a person be chosen as one of Hua Xia's 7 fanatics? Did someone in the organizing committee accept a red packet from him? Martial arts fanatic? Phoenix was also a member of the pugilistic world. Perhaps she did not know the name Ho Zhendong, but the title of martial arts fanatic was so impressive that very few people did not know it. Martial arts fanatic of Hua Xia's 7 fanatics? Why is he in Huaqing? Why is he like this? As expected, Phoenix and Fang Yen felt the same way. How could such a person be called martial arts fanatic? Was there not a single member of the 7 Fanatics Appearance Association? In their minds, a martial arts fanatic should have a jade-like face, shoulder-length hair, serious in speech and manner, and have the demeanor of an immortal. It's fine when he doesn't move, but when he does, the earth will shake. Fang Yen also felt like the earth was shaking, but it was because of the martial arts fanatic's image and the way he teased the girl just now. "He might be a fake," Fang Yen whispered. Fang Yan's voice was very soft, but the martial arts fanatic heard it. Ho Zhendong shouted, "Ignorant brat, who dares to fake the title of martial arts fanatic? Aren't you afraid that I'll fight him to the death?" "Senior martial arts fanatic is right," Fang Yen shouted. "It's my great honor to meet Senior today. If there's a chance in the future, I'll invite Senior for tea again." Fang Yen grabbed Phoenix's arm and said in a low voice, "Let's go." Saying so, the two of them prepared to slip out of the tea house. "Brat, don't go," the martial arts fanatic shouted. "An invitation is not as good as a chance encounter. Since we're meeting at the edge of the Pearl River, how could we not have a good fight? Stay, let's spar." "Senior, unfortunately my wife is giving birth in the hospital today." While speaking, Fang Yen had already left his chair and ran towards the stairs. "Fang Yen brat, don't go." The martial arts fanatic was furious, shouting Fang Yan's name, wanting him to stay. How could Fang Yen dare to stay? He only wanted to leave this place as soon as possible. The martial arts fanatic was famous mainly because of his obsession with martial arts. It said that the martial arts fanatic became famous at a young age, then began to travel everywhere to challenge others. As long as he takes a fancy to an opponent, he'll find a way to make them fight. In order to stimulate his opponent's fighting spirit, he'll even use some very dishonorable methods. For example, when he teased the Phoenix just now, he must have thought that the Phoenix was Fang Yan's girlfriend, so he directly set his target on the Phoenix. Fang Yen, the opponent that he had his eyes on, would naturally be enraged for the sake of his beauty and jump out to fight with him for 300 rounds. Moreover, he'll be full of anger, so he'll definitely not show mercy. Unexpectedly, before Fang Yen could make a move, Phoenix already couldn't help but throw a cup at him. The martial arts fanatic loved to fight all his life, and those who fight are sure to win. Out of over 1,000 challengers, he only lost once. He only lost to the old drunkard Mo Qingdi at his peak. Even his teacher who taught him was defeated after he left for 10 years, and has since gone into seclusion. Some said that he was angered to death by his disciple, while others said that he was painstakingly researching new moves to defeat his disciple. But until now, he still hasn't succeeded. There are many rumors, but no one knows which one is the real situation. What Fang Yen didn't expect was that he just came to the riverside to drink a cup of tea, meet a wretched uncle, and then run into one of the legendary 7 addicts of Huaxia, the martial addict. As long as it's an opponent that the martial addict takes a fancy to, he won't be able to avoid him. He'll always follow behind you and make all kinds of provocative moves. Now, Fang Yen is running into such a person. Just as Fang Yen ran to the stairs, he heard a whistling sound behind him. Fang Yen didn't even turn his head, and struck out with his palm. Crack! With a crisp sound, the wooden board was smashed into pieces by Fang Yen. The martial addict actually kicked out a wooden board, using it as a weapon to stop Fang Yen from leaving. At the same time, he kicked another 2 boards into the water, and with a leap, he stepped onto the wooden board. Pa pa pa! His toes touched the floating board, and he crossed the river, leaping up to the 2nd floor of the tea house. His movements were rapid, and his body was like a dragonfly skimming the water. At the same time that Fang Yen smashed the board, he had already rushed to where Fang Yen was sitting, and looked at Fang Yen mockingly, saying, "Little friend Fang Yen, are you really in such a hurry to leave?" Fang Yen and Phoenix had to stop. Fang Yen turned to look at the martial addict and said, "Senior Ho, why are you in such a hurry to go upstairs?" "Fight with me," the martial addict said. "I want you to fight with me. Since you know who I am, you should know that this is the only thing I want." "No problem," Fang Yen readily agreed. "Really?" The martial addict was overjoyed. "When and where?" 10 years from now, at the Shui Wuxia tea house, I'll see you there," Fang Yen said heroically. "A gentleman's promise is worth 1,000 gold. How could I lie to you about such a serious matter?" "Where is Shui Wuxia?" the martial addict asked. Fang Yen looked at the martial addict in shock. Shouldn't his focus be on why the duel is 10 years from now? The martial addict finally thought of this and angrily said, "Ignorant brat, you've wronged me again. Why is it 10 years from now?" "I can't beat you right now," Fang Yen sincerely said. "You are the famous 7 addicts of Huaxia. I don't think I'm a match for you at all." The martial addict smirked and said, "It's just a lowly name, not worth mentioning. Don't take it to heart. A person's name is like a tree's shadow. Senior martial addict is famous throughout Huaxia. The number of combatants that have lost to you is uncountable. Fang Yen is still young. How could he be a match for Mr. Martial Addict? Not only am I not a match for you, I don't even have the qualifications to fight against you." Fang Yen looked at the martial addict with a face full of respect, as if flattery was free of charge. However, a soldier who doesn't want to be a general is not a good soldier, and a warrior who doesn't want to defeat the martial addict is not a good warrior. "Mr. Martial Addict, although you are very powerful, although I respect and admire you, 10 years from now, right here, right now, I, Fang Yen, will challenge you again." After saying that, Fang Yen angrily turned around. An impassioned expression that said he would take revenge one day. Chapter 527. The mountains are high and the rivers are long. Let's meet again in 10 years. When Fang Yen turned to leave, he didn't forget to give Phoenix a reminder with his eyes. "Hurry up, don't let this idiot turn around." Phoenix was also a clever person, and she had worked together with Fang Yen for many years, so she naturally understood what he meant. She stared at the martial addict with disdain and said, "The river flows east for 30 years, and the river flows west for 30 years. Don't bully the young for being poor." 10 years later, Fang Yen will definitely get revenge here and defeat the martial addict. What a good young man. The martial addict thought in his heart. He was almost moved by this young man. Although he clearly knew his own strength and clearly recognized the gap between them, he didn't give up nor was he depressed. He had a dream in his heart and was motivated to fight back. 10 years later, at this time and place, he would challenge himself again. Wait, why was it still 10 years later? Bastard. The martial addict was so angry that he slapped the wooden table, and the teacup on the table flew towards Fang Yan's back. The teacup moved in a straight line, generous, neutral, and peaceful, just like the most ordinary teacup containing the most ordinary tea. The strange thing was that there was no tea waiter bringing the teacup in the middle. The teacup was silent, but it contained a great deal of lethality. Fang Yan had fought with countless strange people, and he was very clear that the simpler a move was, the more complicated the truth was. If you couldn't understand the truth behind it, you couldn't take these moves. Those extremely gaudy moves, on the other hand, didn't have that much lethality. Because those complicated moves were a waste of qi and also a waste of strength. For these top experts, strength was like eating, and not a single grain of rice could be left. This move was similar to the spinning explosion that Fang Yan had just used. It perfectly combined qi and strength, and then transformed it into a more aggressive move. The difference was that the cup that Fang Yan threw needed to rotate to maintain the balance of qi and strength, and maintain an independent world. It was not disturbed by the attack of external forces or objects. But the cup that the martial addict threw with his palm moved in a straight line, and achieved the balance of qi and strength without the need to rotate. It was obvious that this was a level higher than Fang Yan's. Skyline. One line as the heavens, the Tao of nature. Fang Yan took a step forward with his right foot, his upper body swaying nonstop, as if he was drunk and unable to stand steadily. His upper body ran 11 circles in an instant before he managed to avoid the teacup's attack. Kacha! The teacup smashed into the wall, but the tea in the teacup seemed to have disappeared into thin air. Not a single drop spilled out. In fact, when the martial addict slammed his palm on the table, the tea in the teacup had already been evaporated by his majestic and turbulent qi. What was flying in the air was just an empty teacup. Beautiful. Nice hiding. The martial addict burst into laughter and said, "How many years has it been? It's rare to see such an eye-catching young opponent. Of his previous opponents, some were too old, and some were too young. The old man's fists were loose and his qi was weak. He couldn't stand a prolonged battle. The young punches were short of breath, and it was difficult for them to form any form of power. It's really boring." Little brother Fang Yan, what was the name of the move you used just now? Was it Drunken Crane Riding the Wind? This was the Drunken Crane Riding the Wind created by Azure Dragon Mo Qingdi after he was crippled? The martial fanatic was also a weirdo. When he was annoyed or angry, he would open his mouth and call you ignorant kid or pretty boy. However, when you performed a martial art move that made his eyes light up, he would immediately change the way he addressed you as brother. It was Drunken Crane Riding the Wind. Fang Yan answered truthfully. What a heaven-sent genius. He really is a genius. The martial addict said with a face full of regret, Hua Xia, Azure Dragon Mo Qingdi, how glorious and dazzling he was back then. I painstakingly chased after him for 3 months and 17 days, and finally got the chance to fight him by the Qingming Lake. After exchanging 3 punches, I used my spear. The first spear. He only used 1 spear and broke 29 strands of my hair. I saved that strand of hair and carefully counted it. The martial addict fondled the green skin on his head with nostalgia and said, I used to be like Mo Qingdi, I also had long hair. If a martial artist doesn't have long hair, what kind of heroic spirit is there? Do you know why I cut my hair so short now? It's because I was worried that I would meet an expert like Mo Qingdi again and have my hair cut off again. What a pity! What a pity, the Azure Dragon met the Divine Dragon. In the battle between the 2 dragons, the Azure Dragon's tendons were destroyed and his cultivation was crippled. Even the heavens are jealous of geniuses. All these years, I've challenged people everywhere and trained hard, all for the sake of one day fighting with the Azure Dragon again and erasing the shame of losing my hair. I'm afraid I won't have the chance to fight with the Azure Dragon, but I did meet the Azure Dragon's disciple. This can be considered a fortunate event. Fang Yen was so scared that he quickly explained, "Senior martial addict, don't misunderstand, me and the old drunkard, you see, I've always called him the old drunkard out of habit, I've never called him the Azure Dragon or Mo Qingdi before. The old drunkard isn't my master, and I'm not his disciple, we're actually of the same generation. He's my grandfather's eldest disciple, and I'm my grandfather's youngest disciple. We're brothers. If you don't believe me, you can go to the inner river and ask around to see if I'm lying to you." The martial addict laughed as he looked at Fang Yen, saying, "You're such a slippery brat, if I wasn't careful, I would have fallen into your trap. You think I'll let you go just because you say you're not my disciple? I'm just a martial addict, it's not that I'm not clear-headed, master and disciple, or fellow apprentice, as long as you learn Mo Qingdi's drunken crane rides the wind, and coincidentally use his technique to break my one-line heaven, then we'll have a good fight." Fang Yen helplessly looked at the martial addict, asking, "Can't we not fight?" "No, I'll admit defeat, okay?" "You can't either," the martial addict said. "If every opponent I challenge admits defeat, would there still be any fights in life? Would there still be any joy in living? This guy's a bastard," Fang Yen secretly thought to himself. "How good would it be to be safe and painless? Why must I fight to the death with others? If I beat someone to death or cripple them, wouldn't I feel guilty and guilty? If I'm beaten to death or crippled, or worse, I might even be beaten to disfigurement, wouldn't that be a death grudge? Wouldn't my children and grandchildren have to think of ways to avenge me? I really don't want to fight against Senior Martial Addict, and I know I'm no match for Senior Martial Addict." Fang Yen hesitantly said, "How about I just stand here and let Senior Martial Addict beat me up? If I want to spar, it won't be one-sided violence, that would be equally tasteless." The martial addict was also a bit hesitant, thought for a bit, then said, "How about this? I'll give you a question, if you can solve it, I'll let you go and we'll call it a day." "Really?" Fang Yen was secretly happy, then said, "Don't give me a question from the 4 Books and 5 Classics, or the Book of Taoism, I'm not familiar with those." "Of course not," the martial addict waved his hand and said, "Martial artists naturally have to take a martial test, who would do such a scholarly thing?" The martial addict thought for a bit, then picked up a teacup from the table, picked up the teapot, and poured water into the teacup. When the teacup was full, the martial addict put the teacup in his palm, lightly flicked his finger, and the teacup flew towards Fang Yen. This time, it was flying in a whirling manner, or rather, flying. Because its speed was very slow, it was as if there was a remote control controlling its flying rhythm. The teacup that was filled with tea stopped in front of Fang Yen, but it still maintained its spinning posture. Like a living creature. Phoenix was shocked. Standing next to Fang Yen, she whispered, "This old monster's inner energy is unfathomable. This fairy flower offering move is very difficult to perform unless you've mastered Qigong. You must be careful." The martial addict was a fairy, the spinning teacup in front of Fang Yan's chest, and the tea in the teacup that didn't move or even ripple was the flower offered by the fairy. This flower wouldn't bring fragrance to people, but it could take away people's lives. Therefore, this flower was also called the Yama flower. Fang Yen was silent, as if he didn't hear what Phoenix said, his eyes staring at the spinning teacup in front of him. His legs trembled lightly, and his body swayed once again. Sometimes fast, sometimes slow, as if someone was constantly attacking him. It wasn't someone else attacking him, it was this Yama flower that kept attacking him. The Yama flower was a barrier that the martial addict had poured a huge amount of strength into, and it was skillfully cast by him. It catered to the direction of the wind, fused with the airflow, and guided by the power of nature, and maintained its spinning state. Once the direction of the wind changed, the airflow increased, or it was attacked by an external force, it would explode. The martial addict laughed as he looked at Fang Yen and said, "Fang Yen, you brat, as long as you can pick all of this flower and the water doesn't ripple, you'll pass today's question, shameless." Phoenix's temperament was extremely elegant, and she cursed, "When picking the flower, of course it would touch the cup, and when touching the cup, how could the water not ripple? You're purposely making things difficult for us, huh?" The martial addict laughed and said, "Little girl is right, I'm indeed making things difficult for you. Not only that, While the martial addict was still talking, his figure suddenly disappeared. A shadow flashed, and when he reappeared, he was already clutching Phoenix's neck. In order to add a bit of entertainment, we should add a bit more stakes to this match. If he can't solve this question, I'll break your neck. Wouldn't that be a lot more fun? Phoenix's face turned purplish red, reaching out to pull the martial addict's hand away. But the martial addict didn't budge at all. His fingers exerted a bit of force, and all of her strength was drained away. Fang Yen brat, don't disappoint me, the martial addict smirked and said, pick this Yama flower, or watch her die, dash. Chapter 528. Crazy because of love, crazy because of love. In order to force others to spar with him, he did not hesitate to kidnap a hostage, something that did not match his identity at all. This kind of martial fanatic, one of the 7 fanatics of Huaxia, was truly shameful. Phoenix's pretty little face turned purplish red. Her body was powerless and stopped struggling, as if she had resigned herself to being controlled by the martial fanatic to threaten Fang Yen. She came from a wealthy family. When had she ever suffered such grievances? When had she ever suffered such torment? Her eyes fiercely and angrily glared at the martial fanatic. She did not shrink back because her life was in the hands of others. Her mouth could not speak, but her eyes had already expressed all of her emotions. Little girl, don't be angry with me. The martial fanatic looked at Phoenix with a smile and said, I am doing this for the good of your little lover. If he can break this fairy flower offering, his cultivation will once again advance. At that time, you will also benefit. At that time, you will thank me, this old monster. Phoenix had just cursed the martial fanatic for being an old monster in a low voice. It turned out that the martial fanatic had already heard it. Now that he threw it back at Phoenix, Phoenix did not even have the chance to defend herself. Who told her to have her throat grabbed? The martial fanatic made his move, and Phoenix was captured. All of these things happened in the time it takes for a normal person to blink their eyes. Fang Yen turned a deaf ear to everything around him, as if he did not notice that Phoenix was in danger. His body was still swaying back and forth, left and right in an irregular manner. The heart of Tai Chi naturally rotated, and the Tai Chi domain fully unfolded. When the flower of the fairy flower offering appeared in front of Fang Yen as a more intuitive red line, Fang Yen could clearly see the picture of the rotating cup. The rotating cup was a straight line, but because the speed of the rotation was too fast, it looked as if those lines were in a completely still state. Not only was the cup rotating, but even the tea inside the cup, which did not look like there was a single ripple, was also rotating. The lines of the tea were dynamic and looked like undulating waves. Then, here came the problem. The problem set by the martial addict was to make Fang Yen keep the water still while picking the Yama flower. The tea itself was rippling. When one's hand touched the edge of the cup or the body of the cup, it would only ripple more violently. How could one keep it still? It goes against the laws of physics. However, if he couldn't do that, how could he distinguish the difference between top-notch experts and ordinary people? If they couldn't go against the principles of martial arts, how could those martial gods and martial fanatics happily pretend to be pretentious? Fang Yen was now faced with such a difficult problem. Fang Yen stared at the spinning teacup without blinking, his fingers itching to move. He wanted to reach out and catch the teacup several times, but he resisted the urge to do so. He knew that the time was not right. If he dared to make a move, this ordinary teacup might turn into a powerful bomb. The pieces of the cup would turn into sharp daggers, and even the tea inside the cup would become indestructible steel nails. It was just like the spinning explosion that Fang Yen had just used on the martial addict. The difference was that this fairy flower was more lethal. Wonderful! Fang Yen had to praise the martial addict's skills in his heart. Just like the same writers, some of them wrote extravagant articles that made people salivate and smell fragrant, such as Love of Lotus, Epigraph of My Shack, and Peach Blossom Spring. Some of them wrote dull and boring articles, such as The Genius Doctor and King of Fire. In the eyes of Fang Yen, the martial addict's fairy flower was equivalent to those famous works written by great masters. It was calm on the outside and dangerous on the inside, and it was well-rounded and well-balanced. The strength was balanced, and the chi was used exquisitely. A little more would be too heavy and a little less would be too light. Compared with his spinning explosion, it was like the difference between the genius doctor and peach blossom spring. Fang Yen was fascinated not only to solve the problem, but also to appreciate the unique skill. Seeing Fang Yan's happy eyes and thoughtful expression, the martial addict's expression became strange. This kid is a little interesting. As time passed, the teacup in front of him was still spinning, and Fang Yan's body was still swaying like a drunken crane riding the wind. However, apart from a layer of fine sweat on his forehead, he did not make any move to solve the problem. Moreover, his eyes were getting brighter and brighter, and his expression was getting more and more excited. It was as if the rotating cup in front of him was a peerless treasure cup, and he only needed to stretch out his hand to grab it. Phoenix was confused, and there was a little annoyance in her heart. This idiot, I'm being kidnapped, and you're still laughing like a fool like you've won the lottery. Is the first love not human? Does the first love not have human rights? The smile on the martial addict's face froze, and his gaze on Fang Yen became more and more serious. This guy is stronger than I thought. Dong dong dong. The sound of heavy footsteps could be heard. The red-robed waitress quickly walked up the stairs and asked, "Sir, did you break something?" She looked at the spinning teacup in front of Fang Yen in surprise, and forgot why she came upstairs. What's with that teacup? Is this a magic competition? Also, what's with that fatso strangling that beautiful girl's neck? As a dedicated tea house worker, shouldn't he call the police at this time? Phew! Fang Yen let out a deep breath. His body straightened, his feet stood still, and his upper body stopped shaking. Crack! The teacup in front of him stopped spinning, fell to the ground and shattered. Fang Yen looked at the martial addict and asked, "Senior martial addict, my friend and I, can we leave now?" The martial addict let go of Phoenix's neck, but his eyes were still staring at the shattered teacup on the ground. It was as if the teacup had shattered into a flower again. Fang Yen pulled Phoenix in front of him and asked with concern, "Are you okay?" Phoenix covered her neck, coughed a few times, then shook her head. "I'm fine." Her eyes looked at Fang Yen, then at the martial addict who had fallen into a trance, not understanding what happened between the two of them. If there's nothing else, Fang Yen grabbed Phoenix's arm and said, "Let's go back." Phoenix nodded obediently, not even refusing Fang Yan's grip on her wrist. As the two of them walked down the stairs, Phoenix couldn't help but look back again. The martial addict was still in a trance state, as if something incomprehensible had happened in front of him. However, nothing strange had happened. After Fang Yen paid the bill at the front desk, the two of them walked out of the waterless tea house. Phoenix took a deep breath of the salty and humid air outside, feeling a lot more relaxed. In front of Fang Yen and the martial addict, she had always been under a lot of pressure. When the two of them were competing, it wasn't just a competition of strength, chi, but also a competition of presence. As the two of them continued to increase their presence, the pressure they exuded also became heavier and heavier. Even after spending so many years with Fang Yen, she still couldn't quite get used to it. Phoenix looked at Fang Yen and asked with a puzzled expression, "Did you pick the Yama flower?" "There's no such thing as a Yama flower, so why bother picking it?" Fang Yen asked with a smile. "What do you mean?" Phoenix was confused. The cup of tea that the martial addict gave us just now, wasn't it a flower from a fairy? The martial addict is the martial addict, and the martial addict is not a fairy. Tea is tea, it can't grow a flower. Fang Yen shook his head with a smile. We remove the complexity on the outside, remove the color on the surface, and only look at its most essential thing. It is a cup of water. "I don't understand," Phoenix said with some annoyance. Although she was proficient in martial arts, she was far from being comparable to young geniuses like Fang Yen and Bai Xiu. Compared to Yi Rou, she was far behind. This was also the reason why she found it hard to refute Fang Yan's claim that her martial arts were not as good as Yi Rou's. Fang Yen chuckled and said, "The mountain is the mountain, the water is the water, the mountain is not the mountain, the water is not the water. Most of the martial artists are stuck in this second stage, unable to move forward, and their lifetime achievements stop here. The martial addict has entered the realm where the mountain is still the mountain, the water is still the water, but because of the barrier of knowledge, he complicates things, so he came up with such a seemingly difficult but actually very simple problem. How is it difficult and how is it simple? Phoenix was very anxious. These two guys were talking in silence, and as a bystander, she was so anxious that her heart was itching. He set a trap in this question. The cup of water seems to be motionless, but in fact, it is flowing very fast, and the whirlpool is turbulent. As you said, as long as the hand touches the cup, it will inevitably cause the water to ripple. Moreover, the cup and the water form a world of their own, and it will explode upon contact. It is impossible to reach out to pluck the yama flower and ensure that the water in the cup will not ripple, unless the heat in it is extracted and solidified into ice. But that is contrary to the test question, because what the martial addict wants is water. If it solidifies into ice, it will fall into another trap set by him. But I didn't see the water in the cup move, Phoenix said. Fang Yen snapped his fingers and said with a smile, "You didn't see the water ripple, and I also said that I didn't see the water in the cup move. Then, does it prove that the water in the cup has not moved at all?" Phoenix's eyes lit up and said, "So, even the martial addict can't prove that the water in the cup has always been flowing. If he wanted to prove this, he would have to remove the force and skill that he attached to the cup. That way, even if the water is shaking, it can be said that the martial addict himself caused the water to ripple." Fang Yen nodded and said, "Moreover, the cup continued to spin in front of me, not falling or breaking, and I used the drunken crane rides the wind to find its resonance frequency. The cup itself is already under my control, accepting my guidance. Since the fairy's flower is already in my hand, why would I need to pick it? So, you don't need to do anything, and you have already completed this test question? Because this question has no solution, so I don't need to solve it at all," Fang Yen said with a smile. Chapter 529. Phoenix was very happy for Fang Yen and grinned for a while. Phoenix felt sad for herself. She found that they were not on the same wavelength at all. The martial addict casually throwing out a cup was the legendary flower offering from a fairy. Fang Yan's body swayed, and he actually solved this century-old problem. Were these two fairies? What ulterior motives did they have in coming to the human world? The world of martial arts is really obscure and profound. Phoenix sighed. She had a feeling that she had more than enough but not enough strength. As the daughter of a wealthy family, she had already put in enough effort and had been gritting her teeth to keep up, but she just couldn't be like Fang Yen and Yi Ro, who could easily step into another small world. She was still bitterly searching in the outside world but couldn't find a way to enter. Fate was biased towards her, but how unfair was it to her? Fang Yen smiled and looked at Phoenix. "You can clearly rely on your face to make a living. Why must you rely on your talent? You can't even live a good life. You just have to learn how to stretch tendons and wield knives and sticks like us. Why bother?" "I'm willing." Phoenix raised her beautiful face and looked at Fang Yen with a smile on her face. She really liked what Fang Yen said when he said, "I can obviously rely on my face to make a living," and said, "Why do you care?" "I don't care." Fang Yen smiled and shook his head. He took out the key from his pocket and pressed the unlock button. "I'm going back. Goodbye." After that, he opened the door and prepared to leave. "Hey!" Phoenix shouted from behind. Fang Yen turned to look at Phoenix and asked, "Is there anything else?" "I haven't had lunch yet. Are you really not going to treat me?" "I'm going back." Fang Yen said with a smile, "You should go back too. Watching doesn't suit you." Fang Yen waved his hand and slowly drove the BMW away. Looking at the gradually disappearing car, the smile on Phoenix's face froze. Her eyes were filled with sadness. She took out a pack of ladies' cigarettes from her pocket, took one out and put it in her mouth. She took a deep breath into her lungs and then gently exhaled. Not only did he not feel relaxed, but his heart felt even heavier. It was as if there was something pressing on his chest. It would be great if it could be like smoking, the phoenix said faintly. She did not leave. Instead, she turned around and returned to the tea house. Phoenix walked to the second floor again. The martial addict was still squatting in the same place, looking at the broken pieces of the teacup on the ground. The waitress in red looked at him with a puzzled expression. She missed the fact that he was a madman, but she felt that his madness was not too obvious. Phoenix patted the waitress on the shoulder, indicating that there was no need for her to stay. After the waiter left, Phoenix walked to the martial addict's side and squatted down. She didn't say anything and looked at the broken pieces of the cup. "Do you understand?" the martial addict asked. "I don't understand." Phoenix shook her head. "What about you? Understand?" "I understand now," the martial addict said excitedly. "Everyone in the world thinks that there are 3 realms in martial arts. A mountain is a mountain, a water is water. A mountain isn't a mountain, a water isn't water. A mountain is still a mountain, and a water is still water, but there's actually a 4th realm above these 3 realms. That was don't look. Don't look at the mountain, don't look at the water, sit and look at your heart. Whatever your heart thinks, that's what it thinks. Whatever your heart sees, that's what it sees. We always use our eyes, trying our best to see everything as clearly as possible. But that's not the case. The heart is the purest eye. Otherwise, why is there a phrase called mind's eye? Congratulations, the martial addict sincerely congratulated him. For these martial artists, every time they climb a mountain, it's the same as regaining a new life. The previous life doesn't die, it's just entering another stage. Some people only have one life in their entire lives, but some people are able to continuously train, continuously pursue, to experience the wind and moon, to experience the wind and dust, to reach the end. This kind of saying is a bit profound. The simple version is that when you don't have any money, you can only live the life of a beggar. This is your life, your life. But when you have $100 in your pocket, you can live $100 life. When you have 1,000,000 RMB in your bank card, you can live 1,000,000 RMB life. When you become the richest person in the world, you can live the life of the richest person in the world. No matter what social class or social circle, money has already divided people into different levels. You can choose not to accept it, but it really exists. The same principle applies. When Fang Yan obtained the heart of Tai Chi, he entered another world. He achieved a new self. Now the martial addict was standing at the door of a new world. He couldn't figure it out, so he continued to think. When he figured it out, the golden door suddenly collapsed, welcoming his arrival. "Thank you." The martial addict finally stood up, walked back to the window and sat down, saying, "Little girl, come and have a cup of tea with me." The martial addict didn't refuse. She walked to the opposite side of the martial addict and sat down. She took the initiative to wash the cup, poured a cup of warm tea, and brought it over. The martial addict drank the tea in the cup, looked at the phoenix and asked, "You don't want to?" "Why would I not want to? If you are willing, you won't come back." The martial addict smiled and said, "The writer is not willing, so he will rewrite the story he has written. The painter is not willing, so he will tear up the work he has painted and redraw it. The martial artist is not willing, so he will practice the fist technique he has written before again. The woman is not willing, so she will want to choose again." The phoenix laughed and said, "You are not a martial addict, you are a love addict. When you love something to the extreme, you will become a love addict." The martial addict said calmly, "You can see my love, and I can see your love. Can he see it?" The phoenix asked. "He pretends not to see it." The martial addict said, "The atmosphere in the meeting room was very heavy. No one spoke, and everyone held their teacups and drank tea, as if drinking tea was the most important thing in the world." Jiang Shangxin lifted her head and scanned everyone's faces, but accidentally met with Jiang Junling's gaze. It was too late for Jiang Shangxin to avoid it. Just as she was about to say something to liven up the atmosphere, the corners of General Ling's lips curled up into a smile. He looked at Jiang Shangxin and said, "Shangxin, do you think that I'm in a pathetic state? Sorry state? How is that possible?" Jiang Shangxin smiled and shook her head. Brother is still the most handsome and brilliant brother in my heart. Yes, I am in a sorry state. Jiang Junling sighed and said, the appearance this time was not glorious. They wanted to create some trouble for us, and it was really hard for us to avoid it. With the help of Du Qing, the local tyrant who has been in Huaqing for many years, Fang Yan is like a tiger that has grown wings. It's not just disgraceful. We have been slapped in the face, Lan Ling said with a gloomy face. He left the house at 9:20 a.m. to attend the signing ceremony. It should have taken him only 30 minutes, but he took 2.5 hours to get there. By the time he arrived at the meeting, the auspicious time chosen by the old master had already passed, and the meeting could only be postponed. What was even more embarrassing was that they were holding a meeting inside to announce to the media that they would invest heavily in Longtu Group. They were extremely confident in the future performance and the market of Longtu Group, but there was a group of workers making a ruckus outside. Even though they had given the reporters a lot of money and greeted the leaders of the various newspapers, did they really think that the dirty work had been cleaned up? The secretary knocked on the door and walked in. He looked at Jiang Zhulu with a serious expression and said, "Boss, there is already news of the workers making a ruckus online. Which company released it?" Jiang Zhulu asked fiercely. "Watching News Network." The secretary answered. "Let the public relations department be in charge of this matter and get them to delete the post. I will not allow any news that is unfavorable to us to appear on the internet." Jiang Zhulu seemed to be in a bad mood. His tone was very harsh and he was suppressing his anger. "Forget it." Jiang Junling waved his hand and said with a smile, "Zhulu, since they have created such a huge ruckus, how could they not have a backup plan? We can bribe some reporters, but we can't bribe all of them. Some of the media will give us face, but not all of them. If we don't let them release it, they will release it themselves. It can't be stopped. If we don't do something, I'm afraid that there will be reports about this matter everywhere, and our activities today will become a scandal." Jiang Zhulyo's expression softened a little as he said, "The Jiang family and the Lan family invested heavily in Longtu, but we didn't solve the problem of the old employees' insurance. Isn't this pushing us, Longtu, to the opposite side of the people? Since we can't stop it, then let's do it properly. If they scold us for not doing a good job, we can just correct it. Get your public relations department to come up with an emergency public relations plan and send it to the meeting room for everyone to discuss. Since Fang Yan has already ignited the flames of war, we naturally have to meet him with our weapons. Don't be impatient for momentary gains and losses. We only need to win once, win the most important one, and that will be enough." Jiang Zhulu returned to his original seat and said with a smile, "Young master is still able to keep his composure. I've been so angry that I've become muddle-headed by those B*****'s consecutive moves today." Jiang Junling smiled and didn't say anything else. He knew that with Jiang Zhulyo's intelligence, how could he not be able to solve the problem that was happening before his eyes? Hiding his incompetence while showing off his wisdom to the people around him. Only such a cooperative partner was a smart one. Li Yun finished looking at the report in her hand, frowned and said, "If we only give some compensation to those workers who are causing trouble outside, this amount of money is insignificant to us. But I'm just worried that after the problem here is solved, the other workers will also get the same or better treatment. When that time comes, it will be an astronomical figure." "He's trying to take us down," Jiang Junling said with a smile. Chapter 530. Eldest Young Master, do you have any good ideas? Li Yun looked at Jiang Junling and asked. "No." Jiang Junling shook his head. His gentle gaze swept across everyone's faces. He smiled and said, "I want to let everyone make a choice. If you want a reputation, you have to spend a lot of money. If you can't bear to spend money, you won't have a good reputation. What do you choose?" Everyone was silent for a while. Jiang Zhulu was the first to speak. He said, "Eldest young master, we're sitting here to solve this problem. My mind is in a mess. I can't think of any good ideas in such a short time. Why don't you give us an idea? Whether it's to abandon our reputation or spend money, we'll listen to eldest young master's decision." "That's true." Li Yun nodded in agreement. She was in charge of the general's businesses. Jiang Junling had more decision-making power than her. Since that was the case, why not give out the favor earlier? Who didn't know how to say beautiful words? Eldest young master, please organize our thoughts and unite our opinions. If we're going to spend money, we'll spend money together. Lan Ling couldn't express her opinions so readily. She said, I'll send back everyone's opinions. However, after what happened today, I think the Lan clan has a reason to advance and retreat together with everyone. That Fang Yen has gone too far. Huaqing can't allow such a ruffian to ride roughshod over us. Jiang Junling's gaze turned to Lan Ling. He said respectfully, Uncle Lan, don't take these small things to heart. It's just a game of cards. Winning or losing is a matter of course. This time, I didn't think it through. I didn't expect them to make a move on this matter. It's my fault that Uncle Lan was wronged. However, if he stabbed us, we'll just return the favor. We can't hurt ourselves because we're angry. Lan Ling was very pleased with Jiang Junling's respectful attitude and comforting words. A smile finally appeared on her face. She said, looks like Junling already has a way to deal with this. Although Uncle Lan is slightly older than all of you, his brain really isn't as fast as you youngsters. Junling, tell us, how should we play with him? Throw money, Jiang Junling said calmly. It was as if the people behind him could easily solve the problem by throwing out 30 to 500 yuan after he finished speaking. Not only do we have to satisfy all the demands of the troublemakers, but we also have to satisfy the demands of all the other Longtu factory workers. We have to raise the welfare of the workers to an unprecedented height. Either you don't do it, or you do it. If you do it, then you have to be number one in Huaqing. Isn't this the attitude that an outstanding company should have towards its employees? Li Yun was shocked and said in a low voice, military order, this way, we will have to spend 300% more funds on the original foundation. If you want to increase the welfare of the nearly 10,000 employees in Longtu, I'm afraid that it will be an astronomical figure. Jiang Junling smiled but did not reply. He looked at Lan Ling and said, Uncle Lan, can the Lan clan's enterprise be in line with Longtu's? Lan Ling's expression was solemn and he said, I can try my best to fight for it. You know, the Lan clan is not decided by me alone, unless the old master makes a decision. However, military order, since you have made such a decision, you must have your reasons. Is it just to gain the reputation of being a good entrepreneur? If that's the case, the price we have to pay is really too high. Running a business is not about viciousness. It still depends on whether there are benefits or not. Isn't that right? Jiang Junling nodded and said, when we finish this matter, we will be number one in Huaqing, the model of outstanding enterprises in the whole of Huaqing and even the whole country. At that time, we should stand up and admit the mistakes in our work and call on the entrepreneurs in Huaqing and even the whole country to respect their employees, improve the welfare of their employees, and put the interests of their employees first. Li Yun's eyes lit up, and her face was full of joy as she said, in that case, all the enterprises in Huaqing will have to look up to our Longtu. The Lu clan, which is close to Fang Yen, and Du Qing's Green Cloud Group are no exception. Even Lu Chaoga's Chaoyan technology will not be able to avoid it. If they do not look up to our standards, their companies will be unstable internally, and employees will leave. At that time, a large number of talents will re-enter our Longtu. Longtu will once again become number one in Huaqing. The influence of being number one in society will be huge, and so will the benefits. There's also the most important use. Jiang Julio's eyes shone brightly and he said, when the time comes, we will release the news that the Longtu group was forced by Fang Yen and Du Qing to take such measures. In that case, think about it, how many people will see Fang Yen as a thorn in their side? Wonderful. Lan Ling slapped her thigh and shouted, we have taken all the good reputations, but Fang Yen and Du Qing have become the rats on the street that everyone wants to beat up. Those entrepreneurs who have no choice but to cut off their flesh for their employees because of their conspiracies, they can't wait to ruthlessly tear off a piece of flesh from Fang Yen and Du Qing, right? Putting other places aside, I'm afraid that they will be isolated by the entrepreneurs in Huaqing. Wonderful. This move is really too wonderful for words. The saying that a child should be like Jiang Junling is indeed true. He easily and calmly solved the problem of their killer move, and even conveniently stabbed them in the heart. In this case, the money spent was worth it. No, it's worth it. It's worth it. I can guarantee you right now that the Lan clan will throw away this sum of money. Jiang Shangxin also looked at Jiang Junling with a face full of astonishment. She thought to herself, this man is indeed very scheming. Fang Yan and Du Qing worked together to set up such a situation that was bound to be damaged, but it was solved by him with just a few words. At the same time that he solved the problem, he pushed Fang Yan and Du Qing to the opposite side of all the entrepreneurs in Huaqing. If Fang Yan and Du Qing hadn't exposed these matters, how would they have lost so much money? If Fang Yan knew about Jiang Junling's counterattack, what kind of reaction would he have? These two outstanding figures of the younger generation would use Huaqing as the battlefield, each displaying their unique skills and methods. What kind of dazzling sparks would there be when they collided? It was really exciting. Jiang Shangxin suddenly realized that she actually didn't hate Fang Yan at all. She also couldn't hate Fang Yan. Furthermore, deep down in her heart, she still hoped that he would be able to win this battle. Jiang Junling didn't feel happy because of everyone's praises. The smile on his face gradually disappeared, and he looked at everyone present with an extremely serious gaze. He said, since no one has any objections, then we have to execute it as soon as possible. Let's start from solving the problem of those laid-off workers downstairs. Don't waste a single second. Li Yun looked at Jiang Junling and asked, eldest young master, what are you worried about? I'm worried that someone is ahead of us. Jiang Junling sighed softly and said, Fang Yan didn't treat Phoenix to a meal. Instead, he came back to accompany Lu Chaoge for a meal. By the time he drove back, Lu Zhaoge had already prepared the food. 4 dishes and a soup were the standard 3 meals for the two of them during this period of time. Fang Yan said a little reproachfully, why are you cooking again? Your hand hasn't recovered yet, it'll be terrible if it gets wet. Why don't you get the nanny to cook in the future? No need. Lu Chaoge rejected and said, I'm afraid that the dishes they cook won't be to your liking. Moreover, my hand has basically recovered, it won't be a problem as long as I'm careful. If you don't let me go to work in the company, there's really nothing for me to do at home. Lu Chaoge wasn't lying. Because of her health, Fang Yan didn't let her work at Chaoyan Science and Technology for the time being. Everything was handed over to a few assistants, and only the most important things were gathered to her to make decisions. Therefore, when she was alone at home, she wanted to do something meaningful. For example, cooking. In the past, she hated to touch those greasy food and cutlery, as she felt that it would be easy to hurt her hand. However, when she cooked for Fang Yan, she didn't have such worries at all, and in the process, she could gain a lot of happiness. For Lu Chaoge, cooking was a fulfilling and enjoyable thing. If Fang Yan didn't let her cook, she didn't know how to spend the extra time. Fang Yan thought for a while and said, well, I'll try to come back from work earlier. If I come back early, I'll cook. If I really can't come back, you'll cook? Lu Chaoge nodded in agreement. Just after the meal, when Fang Yan was busy cleaning up the dishes, the doorbell in the living room rang. Fang Yan walked over and took a look. He found Du Qing and Leah standing in front of the camera at the door. Fang Yan pressed the unlock button, and the electronic iron door automatically shrank to both sides. After Fang Yan washed his hands, he untied the apron around his neck and said to Lu Chaoge, Du Qing is here. Fang Yan took the initiative to go out to greet Du Qing. Du Qing said with a smile, young master, you don't have to be so polite. We're all on the same side, and we'll have to come here to drink tea often in the future. How tiring would it be to welcome and deliver it every time? Who asked Big Brother Du to be a distinguished guest? Fang Yan said with a smile. Lu Chaoge personally brought tea to Du Qing and Leah. Du Qing quickly got up and took it. Looking at Lu Chaoge, he said, Miss Lu is a heroine and has always been my idol. Chaoyan Technology has developed to such a scale in just 3 years. Chaoyan Technology's little flame logo is popular all over the world. Miss Lu is the soul. We old guys who have been in the business world for many years are far inferior. Leah knew about Lu Chaoge's deeds and respected her very much. Standing next to Du Qing, she looked at the legendary woman in front of her with curiosity. The genius woman who often appeared in financial magazines, was she dressed in home clothes when she was at home? Using her hands of wealth to serve fragrant tea to the guests? Leah had to turn her eyes to Fang Yan's face again. This man who had been ignored by her before, what kind of magical charm did he have? To be able to make a goddess like Lu Xiaoga willingly pour spoonful for him? Lu Xiaoga smiled indifferently and said, Mr. Du is a senior, and also a big brother. It's Xiaoga's honor to be valued by you. Chaoyan technology was able to achieve such results because of the care of our ancestors. I just put in some courage and hard work. How can I compare to Mr. Du who started from scratch? Du Qing laughed and said, the outside world is saying that Miss Lu Xiaoga, the helmsman of Chaoyan technology, is as cold as ice. It seems that they lack understanding of Miss Lu. I know that Miss Lu's ability to praise people is not any lower than others. My heart is filled with warmth. Everyone laughed. Chapter 5:31. Lu Xiaoga didn't say much. After serving tea to everyone, she sat quietly beside Fang Yan. Fang Yan held a cup of Longjing tea before the rain. He didn't taste it carefully, but he carefully stroked the glass teacup with his palm. He looked at Du Qing who was sitting opposite him and said, I heard that the roads in Huaqing aren't easy to drive on right now, and there's a lot of traffic jams? Du Qing nodded in agreement and said, Huaqing is an international metropolis. There are more and more people and more cars. When it's rush hour, cars move slower than turtles. In the past, we used to call cars a tortoise cover, but at that time, cars moved very fast. Look at it now, isn't it a tortoise cover? Buying cars is for the convenience of people's lives, but as more people buy cars, life becomes more and more inconvenient. Take what happened today as an example. There's a very important person in Huaqing who's going to attend a very important meeting. Originally, the assistant had already planned the time. They would leave at 9:30 a.m. to attend the ribbon-cutting ceremony at 10:30 a.m. Isn't an hour more than enough to travel? In the end, it wasn't a coincidence that a few cars rear-ended one another on the road, and a few drivers pushed the blame to each other and even got into a fight. As a result, that important person's ribbon-cutting ceremony at 10:30 a.m. was dragged to 11:30 a.m. Oh, he didn't make it for the 11:30 a.m. event. Fang Yan squinted his eyes and smiled. He said, we need to give more suggestions to the Huaqing government and ask them to do a good job in clearing the roads during rush hour. Isn't that so? Many important people called the mayor of Huaqing, hoping that they could quickly solve this problem. It's not easy being the mayor. It's such a big city with tens of millions of people, how can it be easy to manage? Nothing is easy. Fang Yan said with a smile. There's no helping it, this is within the mayor's responsibility. Who else can they look for if not him? That makes sense. Du Qing said with a smile. He looked sincerely at Fang Yan and asked, Young master, how do you think that important person will react after his important matter is ruined? Fang Yan looked at Du Qing and said, Big shots care a lot about their face. They can lose anything but face. Today they have lost face, so they will definitely find a way to get it back. In what ways do you think they will regain their face? Du Qing asked. Get up from where you fell. Fang Yan replied, the trouble caused by the workers in the electronics factory is a trap that someone dug for them. It's not easy to solve this problem. Or, they would throw money at the troublemakers. Not only did they want to convince the retired workers, but they also wanted to make the workers who hadn't stood up for the time being satisfied. They had just settled down, but the other side felt that the treatment wasn't good and jumped out to cause trouble again. Turning all his hard work into a joke is not his style. Are they really willing to pay such a huge price? Leah asked in disbelief. She and her uncle Du Qing came to look for Fang Yan to solve this problem. They had already discussed the answer to this question in the office. Either Jiang Junling and the rest chose to deal with this matter coldly and satisfy some of the troublemakers' interests. They would first shut their mouths, then use the other part of the interest to keep them in suspense so that they wouldn't stand on the opposite side and attack Long Tu. However, this way of dealing with it was too conservative and petty. Especially at this critical moment when the whole city's media was paying attention to this matter, it was even less convincing for them to do so. Then, there was another possibility, which was to throw money at them. They would follow the method that Fang Yan suggested, which was to smash the troublemakers and those who might be dissatisfied. However, she and her uncle had done a rough calculation. With the current size of the Longtu group, this would be an astronomical figure. In order to win people's hearts, would Jiang Junling and Jiang Zhulu do such a crazy thing? If they really did such a thing, could they still be considered a qualified business operator? If it was in the past, Li Yo would directly refute Fang Yan's speculation. However, after seeing Fang Yan's methods and style of doing things a few times, she naturally had some fear of him and a belief that she had always rejected. Du Qing also looked at Fang Yan with a solemn expression and said, "They took out such a huge amount of capital just to buy people's hearts? Just so that they have a chance to stab us in the back? If there's a chance to stab us in the back, no matter how much capital they have, they are willing to invest it." Fang Yan said with a smile. "Brother Du, you have to be mentally prepared for a tough battle." Du Qing was shocked and said, "Young master, don't be impulsive. They are throwing money irrationally, but we can't throw money irrationally. If we fall into a vicious competition, we will be the ones who suffer in the end." Chaoyan technology has been developing rapidly these years, but compared to the giants like the Jiang family, our foundation is still a little shallow. Our Green Cloud group is not even worth mentioning. Injuring 8 enemies and losing 1,000 of our own. It's not worth it. What was Du Qing afraid of? He was afraid that Fang Yan and Jiang Junling would get angry. The same youthful vigor, the same young heroes. If you throw 100 million, I will throw 200 million on my side. If you throw 1 billion, I will throw 5 billion on my side. It has to be a little more than you. In that case, where would he, Du Qing, go? If he didn't follow, he would lose his friendship. If he followed, the Green Cloud group, which had just been injured, would probably be dragged down in this tough battle. Du Qing could guess what Jiang Junling might do next, but he couldn't guess what Fang Yan would do to deal with it. "Brother Du, don't worry," Fang Yan said with a smile, "I'm not that irrational. Besides, throwing money to fight with others is not in line with our style. How can a cultured person compete with others for wealth?" Fang Yan turned to look at Lu Chaoga and asked with a smile, "Are you ready?" "Ready." Lu Chaoga nodded lightly and said, "There are a total of 3 steps. The first step has been executed. We just need to publicize it. Then let's begin," Fang Yan said with a smile. Du Qing looked at Fang Yan and Lu Chaoga in surprise and said, "You two already have a plan?" Fang Yan nodded and said with a smile, "They like to throw money, so we'll let them throw more. It can be considered as contributing to society." Du Qing was stunned for a moment, then laughed and said, "The mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. Haha, interesting. It's really interesting." On the television, Lu Chaoga, who had not appeared in front of the public for a long time, made a high-profile appearance. She led Chaoyan Technology and the Huaqing Chamber of Commerce to make a joint statement that they would raise the salaries of their employees according to the highest salary ratio in the country. In an interview with the media, Lu Chaoga said, "The incident of the retired employees kneeling at Longtu Group made me feel deeply guilty. When my father was alive, he often said that employees are the soul and the core value of a company. I was still young at that time, but I remembered this sentence deeply in my heart. Later, my father died, and I had no choice but to leave Longtu, but Longtu was my father's painstaking effort, the place where his scientific research and wisdom started. Even though I'm no longer a Longtu person, I've always been paying attention to Longtu, hoping that Longtu can develop better and better. Longtu is indeed developing better and better, and its scale is also getting bigger and bigger. However, what I don't understand is that today, when the energy industry is booming and the company's annual profits are in the hundreds of millions, why would there still be a situation where retired employees don't have enough to eat and can't go to the hospital? These old people have worked hard for Longtu their whole lives. Is this their final outcome? In order to get the benefits they deserve, they had no choice but to kneel in front of everyone. This kind of incident is really chilling. As a child of Longtu, as a former citizen of Longtu, I can empathize with the suffering of the people of Longtu. I hereby announce that the salaries of all employees of Chaoyan Technology will be increased by 20%. In addition, we will establish a comprehensive medical and social security system for Chaoyan Technology so that they won't have any worries in the future. If there are people of Longtu who are willing to work at Chaoyan Technology, we will warmly welcome them. Chaoyan Technology will never turn away talents, and Chaoyan Technology will always provide the best working environment and generous rewards. Smack! The beautiful teacup came into contact with the hard wall, once again turning into pieces of broken shell. The golden tea slid down the marble wall, drawing a long shadow. Jiang Junling stared coldly at the TV screen, and Li Yun hurriedly walked over to turn off the TV. Not only Jiang Junling, but everyone else also wanted to smash their cups. However, there was only one person present who had the right to smash a cup. After he smashed it, it wouldn't be appropriate for the others to do the same. Jiang Junling looked at Li Yun and asked, "What's the range of our salary increase?" 20%, Li Yun said. This kind of feeling was really suffocating. A salary increase of 20% was a figure that had been carefully calculated by the accountant. As long as they reached this number, they would be the company with the highest average salary in Huacheng. At that time, if they called for everyone to raise their salaries together, not only would they gain fame and fortune, but they would also push Fang Yen and Du Qing's Qingyun group to the opposite side of all the companies in Huacheng. Now that Fang Yen and the others had rushed to raise their salaries to 20%, it was equivalent to stabbing them in the heart. Why not 10%? Why not 15%? Why not 18%? Why did it have to be 20%? The style of that knife really made people feel sour and numb. The worst thing was, not only did they not get the first opportunity, but they also couldn't gain any reputation. Instead, they could only follow behind Chaoyan Technology. Even if they were to raise their salaries to 20% or higher, it was still under the call of Chaoyan Technology. During the interview, Lu Chaoga also said that she hoped that she could set an example and let those companies with conscience realize their mistakes and wake up. If they followed suit and raised their salaries, did that mean that they would all feel guilty and wake up because of her actions? Chapter 5:32. Jiang Zhulu smiled sinisterly and said, "No wonder young master reminded us to settle the matter quickly. It seems like they were well prepared. This is a chain of attacks." Li Yun was in a bad mood as well. She had just finished negotiating with the workers' representatives. They were very satisfied with the solution and promised that they would not cause trouble for the company anymore. They had finally come up with a big move and were just waiting to kill the enemy in one move. What they didn't expect was that their opponents had already taken the initiative to use their ultimate move. The special effects were even cooler than theirs, and the moves were even more gorgeous than theirs. Tell me, who could they go to reason with? This is a chain of attacks. General Ling took the towel that Shangxin brought over and wiped the water stains on his hands. The murderous look on his face gradually disappeared, and he regained his radiant smile. He said softly, "When they were digging that pit, they had already predicted our reaction. When we counterattack, it is equivalent to jumping into the pit, and they start to dig the soil with shovels, burying us tightly." The workers had chosen to create trouble at such a critical moment. When Jiang Junling and the rest were busy filling the pit, Fang Yen and Lu Chaoga kicked them into the pit and started to fill it with soil. "These people are trying to kill us. Military orders, they are once again ahead of us. What do we do now?" Lan Ling asked angrily. In the past, they had always been the ones to bully others. They had never thought that there would be a day when someone would dare to bully them. This feeling of being led by the nose was really unbearable. "We have lost," Jiang Junling said honestly. "This time, no matter what we do, we have already lost. If we ignore it, we will not be able to answer to the workers. If we followed suit, the outside world would interpret it as us being inspired by Lu Zhaoga taking the lead in raising wages and feeling guilty towards the workers. That's why we did this. We will not be able to gain anything. Lu Chaoga has stolen our reputation and prestige, and no one will be grateful to us." Jiang Zhulu explained. "The woman you like is really powerful." Jiang Shangxin sneered. Ever since her father's death, she started to view Jiang Zhulu with hostility. She wouldn't let go of any opportunity that presented itself. Li Yun swept a sharp glance at her daughter and stepped out to smooth things over. Shangxin, don't misunderstand the relationship between Zhu Lu and Lu Chaoge. They are only siblings, it's not what you think it is. Jiang Shangxin understood her mother's thoughts and lowered her head, not saying a word. Jiang Zhulu looked at Shangxin and smiled sympathetically. Mom, don't blame Shangxin. Which woman wouldn't be jealous? Shangxin was jealous because she cared about me. If she didn't care about me, why would she mention me with another woman? At that time, I really should have been sad. Jiang Junling took a glance at Jiang Shangxin and said with a smile, this younger sister of mine is a little petty. However, Zhu Lu, I have to warn you that you cannot let Shangxin down. If you dare to bully her, I will not let you off. Jiang Shangxin's heart was filled with sorrow. She was very clear that Jiang Junling was instructing Jiang Zhulu on the surface, but in reality he was threatening her. When he asked Jiang Zhulu to treat her better, he was implying that he didn't want the two of them to have a conflict. Indeed, Jiang Zhulu understood and replied with a serious face, don't worry, eldest young master. I can't wait to dote on her and love her. How would I bear to bully her? The group of people laughed out loud. Only Jiang Shangxin's heart was wet and she wanted to find a quiet place to cry her heart out. Li Yun stopped laughing and looked at Jiang Junling. We are one step behind on the military order, but we still have to respond. At the very least, we have to fulfill the conditions that we promised the workers' representatives. Otherwise, they will think that they have been cheated and will do something even more drastic. By then, we won't be able to turn the situation around. Of course we have to fulfill the promise. Jiang Junling pondered and said, it's just a matter of how far we have to go. Li Yun's heart skipped a beat. Could it be that Jiang Junling wasn't convinced and wanted to increase the stakes? If that was the case, they would have to spend an astronomical sum of money. This time, Li Yun's heart really ached a little. Of course, Li Yun wouldn't say anything against it. She knew Jiang Junling too well. This man was proud and arrogant. On the surface, he was respectful to everyone, but deep down, he was extremely selfish. No one could change his mind once he decided on something. What's your opinion on the military order? Li Yun looked at Jiang Junling and asked. Jiang Junling's gaze met Jiang Zhulio's for a short while, then it stopped on Lan Ling's face. He smiled and said, Uncle Lan, this concerns a few families. I can't make the decision alone. Everyone has to make a decision together. Lan Ling also knew Jiang Junling's character and knew that he would be the one to make the decision. However, he really liked the respectful attitude that Jiang Junling displayed. He waved his hand and said, Military order, we are all on the same side. You don't have to be so courteous with us. It's still up to you to make the decision. Don't worry, as long as I can do it, I will give my full support. If I can't do it, I will go back and ask my grandfather for support. Jiang Junling nodded and said, since everyone trusts me, then I won't be courteous with everyone. I'll tell you my opinion first, and if you think it's inappropriate, you can bring it up. This isn't just empty words, everyone has to fork out the money together. This is a big matter. I can't make the decision alone, and I can't make the decision. Jiang Zhulu chuckled as he looked at Jiang Junling and said, whatever eldest young master says, we'll do it. Do you think eldest young master will let us suffer losses? That's right. The Jiang family has a lot of assets. At most, they'll give us some compensation from other places. Lan Ling also agreed. Jiang Junling had the Jiang family behind him. Even if Jiang Junling squandered all of his assets in Huaqing, it would only be a superficial wound. He wouldn't even be able to touch his bones. The Jiang family would still be the prestigious Jiang family. Moreover, Jiang Zhulu was the one who voluntarily gave away the shares of Longtu Group in order to curry favor with the Jiang family. Even if Longtu Group collapsed, the person who lost the most was Jiang Zhulu. What did that have to do with Jiang Junling? We can't give too little compensation. We've already discussed the standard with the workers' representatives. If we break the contract now, the workers won't be satisfied, and if this matter gets out, we'll seem petty. Jiang Junling patiently explained, we can't use the same standard as Chao Yan either. Although they're ahead of us, we can't use the same standard as them. If we do that, people will think that we're imitating Chao Yan, and Chao Yan will bribe the media to lead us in that direction. We have to set a higher standard than them, but not by too much. Otherwise, we'll fall into Fang Yan's trap and become the main culprit of this incident. Do you think there's a problem with a 25% increase in benefits? No problem. Jiang Zhulu was the first to agree. Li Yun did some mental calculations and felt his heart ache. However, he still smiled and said, there's no problem on my side either. Lan Ling hesitated for a moment and said, this isn't a small amount. I can't make the decision alone. I'll go back and discuss it with the old master. If he agrees, there won't be a problem. I'll explain the cause and effect of this matter and the various stakes to him. I think he'll agree. Although Jiang Junling despised Lan Ling's indecisiveness, he still said gratefully, thank you, Uncle Lan. Thank you for the trouble. Lan Ling sighed and didn't speak anymore. Jiang Junling looked at Li Yun and said, let's do it this way. Li Yun nodded and said, I'll handle this personally. Jiang Zhulu looked at Jiang Junling and said, Master, the matter has been settled temporarily. However, what if they create any more trouble? If I were Fang Yan, Jiang Junling took the teacup that Shangxin passed to him and said, I can still make 2 more moves. Seeing that everyone was looking at him in shock, Jiang Junling squinted his eyes and smiled. He said, furthermore, based on my understanding of my old friend, he will definitely be able to think of these 2 moves and execute them. Li Yun panicked. She looked at Jiang Junling and said, military orders, this isn't a joke. Since you know what Fang Yan is going to do next, shouldn't we take some precautions? We can't just passively take a beating and do nothing, right? Jiang Junling shook his head and said, we don't have to do anything and we can't do anything. If we are slow in the first move, we will be slow in every subsequent move. We have lost this round. Let's change to another battlefield and continue playing the game. Everyone looked at Jiang Junling thoughtfully. This proud man had once again admitted that he had lost. He had lost to the man who had beaten him repeatedly, Fang Yan. Furthermore, even though Jiang Junling had already thought of what Fang Yan was going to do next, he couldn't think of any way to deal with it. In that case, what exactly was Fang Yan going to do? There are some things that can't be done with human strength. Jiang Junling looked at everyone and explained, the more we get entangled in this, the more disadvantageous it will be for us. Why don't we cut the Gordian knot and end this battle quickly in exchange for a battlefield that is beneficial to us? You are right, young master. Jiang Zhulu agreed and said, doing something despite knowing that it is impossible to do is the true stupidity. This feeling, Jiang Junling smiled bitterly and said, is really uncomfortable. After the meeting ended, he bade farewell to Shangxin and the General Ling and walked out with his bag in hand. Jiang Zhulu walked over quickly and shouted, Shangxin, let's talk. Shangxin turned around and looked at Jiang Zhulu expressionlessly. Jiang Zhulu, what do we have to talk about? You are my wife, and I am your husband in name and in law. We have many things to talk about. Jiang Zhulu chuckled and said. Jiang Zhulu grabbed onto Shangxin's arm as she turned around to leave. Jiang Zhulu gave Shangxin a tight slap when she turned around to scold her. A resounding slap. Chapter 5:33. Jiang Shangxin's skin was so delicate that it would turn red even if it was exposed to the sun, let alone such a strong slap. A clear and deep purplish-red palm print appeared on the right side of Jiang Shangxin's face. There was an area that was congested with blood, and it looked like the blood vessels there were about to burst. Jiang Shangxin was stunned. Jiang Zhulu actually dared to slap her? This man had been trying to please her from the beginning to satisfy her pride and selfishness. He had placed his status very low and treated her like a servant. He actually dared to slap her? Was she stupid, or was that man crazy? Jiang Shangxin did not cry or scream. She did not even have the time to make a sound other than the crisp sound that came from her face. She could not accept this reality. Jiang Shangxin felt extremely unfamiliar and shocked when she saw the sinister smile on the man's face. The understanding that she had once thought was just a lie. Jiang Zhulu grabbed Shangxin's arm and casually pushed open the door to an office when he heard someone talking behind him. This was the office of Jiang Zhulio's secretary, Wang Min. When she saw the boss dragging the lady boss in, and the lady boss's face with a ghastly palm print on it, Wang Min jumped up in a panic. She didn't say a word and quickly left. At this point, anything she said or did would be wrong. The smartest thing to do was to pretend that she did not see anything. Jiang Zhulu flung Shangxin's body and threw her onto the sofa in the guest room. Before Jiang Shangxin could get up, Jiang Zhulu had already pressed down on her. His lower body pressed against Jiang Shangxin's legs and abdomen, and his upper body was raised up high. Looking down at Jiang Shangxin's ferocious gaze, he asked with a smile, "Do you hate me?" Jiang Shangxin bit her lip tightly and said word by word, "You dare to hit me?" "So what if I hit you?" Jiang Zhulu asked. "Don't tell me that you still haven't realized it? Haven't you reflected on your current status? Should you put yourself in the right place? That's right, my status is very awkward and my situation is very difficult. I am only a loyal dog of the Jiang family. I have to do whatever they tell me to do. I have to bite whoever they tell me to bite. However, you should understand that as long as a loyal dog like me has any value to the Jiang family, they won't just kick me away. They will feed me dog food. You are my dog food." Jiang Zhulu. Jiang Shangxin gritted her teeth and shouted, "What? Blame me for speaking too harshly? But wasn't that the truth? If I scold you, they will pretend not to hear me. If I hit you, all they can do is reproach me. What can they do to me? Is this not the fate of yours and mine? Shangxin, you are a smart woman. You should be very clear that the bigger the commotion, the worse it will be for you. Do not be hostile to me, do not hate me, obey me, please me, serve me, that is what a wife ought to do. You just got married and don't have any experience of being someone else's wife. I'm not in a hurry. I can wait and give you more time to study. But don't disobey me and don't betray me. Don't mock your husband in front of others. I know you hate me. Why do you hate me? Do you suspect that I have something to do with your father's death? Do you suspect that I killed your father?" Jiang Shangxin's lips twitched, but she did not answer Jiang Zhulio's question. She did suspect that her father's death had something to do with Jiang Zhulu. She did suspect that Jiang Zhulu was the one who killed her father. No, it wasn't just a suspicion, it was a certainty. She was certain that Jiang Zhulu was the culprit who killed her father. Fang Yan had already agreed to exchange hostages. How could he kill her father? Let him live and let him become the shame of the Jiang family and the laughingstock of the entire circle. This was what a sinister and cunning man should do. How could he kill his own father? Jiang Zhulu was the one who brought people to fetch her father. Of course, his own father was included. His father sank into the sea and did not return. Her father did return, but he was a lifeless corpse. With Jiang Shangxin's intelligence, it was not difficult to guess what kind of story was hidden in this. Jiang Shangxin knew that they had their reasons for doing this. She knew that they did not want her father to become a scar on the Jiang family. However, as a woman and as the daughter of that man, how could she pretend that nothing had happened and share the same bed with him? Sleep on the same bed with the murderer who killed her father? This was too harsh and difficult for her. Isn't that the case? Jiang Shangxin said sarcastically. Jiang Zhulu did not deny it. Instead, he looked straight into Jiang Shangxin's eyes and said with sincerity, "Yes, this is the case. I killed your father. I used a special needle." His heart failed and he didn't even have a chance to speak. Isn't this the answer you wanted? Now that you know, I have confessed to you. Jiang Shangxin, what can you do? Call the police to arrest me? Or do you want to make a scene with me? Or look for Jiang Junling to help you take revenge? Do you think he will help you? Do you think he will let you continue to pursue this matter? Jiang Shangxin, I didn't want your father to die. Jiang Junling was the one who killed your father. So, you can only blame your father for being useless and unlucky. You can't blame anyone else. You said that my brother asked you to kill my father? This is impossible. My brother would never do such a thing. Jiang Zhulu looked at Jiang Shangshin's overly calm eyes and his emotions gradually became rational. He climbed up from Jiang Shangshin's body and said, "You have a recording?" Jiang Shangshin got up from the sofa and adjusted her clothes. She looked at Jiang Zhulu with disdain and said, "Why? Are you afraid?" Jiang Zhulu stared at Jiang Shangshin coldly and said, "Jiang Shangshin, what exactly do you want to do?" "What do you think?" Jiang Shangshin asked. "I know that you don't care about me. But, Jiang Shangshin, are you going to betray the Jiang family?" "Betray?" Jiang Shangshin stood up from the sofa and looked at Jiang Zhulu. "I am a member of the Jiang family. Why would I betray my own family?" "But, Jiang Zhulu, who do you think you are?" Jiang Shangshin walked in front of Jiang Zhulu and gave him a tight slap on his face. Then she walked away leisurely in her high heels. Blood flowed from the corner of Jiang Zhulu's mouth. A cruel and ruthless smile appeared on his face. Fang Yan did not disappoint Jiang Junling. Just as Jiang Junling had predicted, they still had a few more moves to make. Chao Yen is a human-oriented research company. While we are committed to solving the energy crisis for mankind, we also pay attention to the health of our employees. The company provides 2 health experiences to their employees every year. We also apply for associated experience cards for their immediate family members. As long as they have worked in Chaoyan Technology for more than 2 years, they have the opportunity to apply for an associated experience card for their parents, wife, or children. They can enjoy the same experience services as the company's employees. Fu Mingli, the deputy director of Chaoyan Technology, said in an interview with the media, "We have launched a special reward program for outstanding talents in Chaoyan. If the children of foreign employees want to bring their children to Huacheng to study, we will provide the most convenient channel. We have already cooperated with the most outstanding private high school in Huacheng, Rosefinch Secondary. Any student who passes the assessment will be given priority admission." Lu Chaoga, the director of Chaoyan Technology, said while participating in a charity event. Chaoyan Technology, which had been developing rapidly in the past few years, suddenly became extremely high profile. Even the queen of Chaoyan, Lu Chaoga, who was very reluctant to show her face in front of the media, frequently appeared in front of the cameras. They increased the welfare of their workers time and time again. They improved their social security and reward system so that their employees, as well as their parents and children, could benefit from it. After this series of events, Chaoyan Technology became a conscientious enterprise in Huacheng, a benchmark enterprise, and also the most anticipated company by job seekers. There was also a special topic by the media regarding the 2 completely different attitudes of Chaoyan Technology and Longtu Company. It was called, "First-rate companies value talents, second-rate companies value profits." The article said, "Both are high-tech companies, but in order to save costs, Longtu Company made fraudulent contracts during the acquisition, causing countless retired workers to have no place to live or recover. This caused the vicious incident of employees surrounding the headquarters of Longtu Tower. On the other hand, Chaoyan Technology prepared for a rainy day and wholeheartedly served its employees. They thought of their employees and did what their employees wanted to do the most. When the 2 were compared, the difference was obvious." A whistling feather arrow hit the bullseye position on the target. "Good arrow. You shot 10 arrows in a row, and each arrow hit the bullseye. Young master, your archery skills are getting better and better. Young master, give me a chain arrow." Li Guochang handed over a towel. General Xing took the towel and wiped his hands clean. He said, "Thank you, Guochang. We're brothers. You can do this kind of thing for me, but you don't have to do this kind of thing for me." Li Guochang smiled and said, "It's just convenient. I'm not trying to flatter you." "That's good. We're brothers. There's no need to play around." Li Guochang followed General Xing to the lounge and said, "I heard that the military order in Huacheng didn't go well." General Xing glanced at Li Guochang and said with a smile, "There's an old saying, the more daring a person is, the more productive the land is. In other words, the more productive the land is, the more daring the person is. That younger brother of mine, he's a little too impatient. He's eager to make a contribution. He doesn't even look at the level of his opponent and falls head first into it. Is it worth it for that little bit of money? Chapter 5:34. This was the best shooting range in Yanjing, and General Xing and his group of young masters were the most distinguished guests here. As soon as the guests walked into the lounge, a service staff brought warm water and towels to wash their hands, and then a second group of service staff brought hot tea according to the guests' preferences, and a third group of service staff brought fruits and snacks. The service staff were all tall beauties wearing white cheongsams, and it was said that many of them were female students from the university town. Their qualifications were quite outstanding. Li Guochang picked up a strawberry with a fork and stuffed it into his mouth to moisten his throat, then looked at General Xing and said, "What? Young master doesn't like that Fang Yen? It's not that I don't like him, it's that I don't want to see him." General Xing held the hot tea and carefully sipped it, with a faint smile on his face. That Fang Yen, he does have some ability. His mind is not weak, and his martial arts are not bad. It's not an exaggeration to say that he's an all-rounder. Otherwise, would that arrogant younger brother of mine have been repeatedly defeated in front of him? If Jiang Zhulu lost, then so be it. What kind of person is Qiang Long Tan? Just take our Yanjing city as an example. How many people can be more calculative than him? And the result? After provoking that kid, he mysteriously disappeared, and Jiang Zhulu had to pretend to be a filial son, and also had to think of a way to explain where his father went. It's not easy to live. Hearing General Xing's interesting words, Li Guochang couldn't help but grin and said, "Since young master thinks so highly of Fang Yen, why do you think that the military's hard work isn't worth that little?" "Fang Yen is a rotten egg." General Xing said, "If you don't like to eat rotten eggs, just move it to a place where you can't see it or turn your line of sight to another place. Because you don't like it, you want to kick that rotten egg away. And the result? Isn't it just staining your body with the stench? And that stench is incomparably stinky, the wind can't blow it away, and water can't wash it off. In the end, isn't it still you who suffers? Why do you have to go against that Fang Yen? If I had the time to fight with this rotten egg, I don't know how many enterprises I could have built and how much profit I could have earned for the family. Compared with showing my talent to consolidate my position in the family, isn't defeating Fang Yen just a piece of cake?" Li Guoqiang picked another strawberry and stuffed it into his mouth. He asked casually, "A military order can't even solve a rotten egg. I'm afraid that your image will be damaged and your position in the family will be shaken." General Xing looked at Li Guochang with a serious face and said, "Guochang, what do you think?" A few days ago, when I was bored, I flipped through a few pages of the Book of Changes. There are a few sentences in it that I think are very reasonable. Heaven is the highest and the earth is the lowest. There must be rules in everything. If there are no rules, wouldn't the world be in chaos? General Xing laughed out loud, pointed at Li Guoqiang and said, "You, a bore, still have the mood to read those ancient books?" It's good to read ancient books. The ancient books explain everything clearly. There are a lot of people nowadays who don't have parents or brothers, and don't care about etiquette or shame. It's really hateful. The smile on General Xing's face gradually disappeared. He said, "Guochang, say, shouldn't we help my little brother?" Of course, Li Guochang nodded without hesitation. Other people don't care about friendship or blood, but we can't do such a thing. How about this? I'll go to Flying Flower City tonight and help the military order? General Xing nodded and said, "That's fine. Then I'll have to trouble you, Guochang." Li Guochang chuckled and said, "We're friends, this is what I should do." "No, you're my brother." General Xing looked at Li Guochang with a serious face and said, "My blood brother." The two of them looked at each other, then burst out laughing. 270 kilometers per hour, 280 kilometers per hour, 301 kilometers per hour. Fang Haohan stared at the speed displayed on the top of the train and happily said to Fang Yingying, "Hero, we'll arrive at Flying Flower City in 2 hours. When we get there, we'll be able to see Junior Marshal Uncle." Calm down a bit. Fang Yingying was holding a copy of The Theory of a Strong Nation and reading it with great interest. He said with a calm and confident expression, "You need to have the elegant demeanor of a mature man, Fang Haohen seriously looked at Fang Yingying and said, "You look very mature, but you're not elegant at all." Just when Fang Yingxiong was about to retaliate, he suddenly thought of something and returned to his refined appearance. With a smile on the corner of his mouth, he said softly like a Maitreya Buddha, "You don't know what refined is. You don't even look elegant, so how can you be elegant?" Fang Haohen looked at Fang Yingying expressionlessly and said, "You bought this book at the train station and flipped to page 37 when you got on the train. It's already been a few hours, and you're still reading page 37. You're not elegant, you're pretentious." Whoosh! Fang Yingying angrily flipped dozens of pages of The Theory of a Strong Nation in his hands and looked at Fang Haohen. "Fang Haohen, you idiot. Why didn't you tell me earlier when you found out about my flaws? What if she found out?" "Who found out?" Fang Haohen looked at Fang Yingying blankly and asked. They were sitting in the business class compartment of the train, and there was no one they knew in the entire compartment. Who was he afraid of seeing? "It's her." Fang Yingying's eyes were shy as he answered embarrassedly. "Who is she?" "You've seen her before?" "When have I seen her before?" "During the ticket check." Fang Haohen finally understood. He looked at Fang Yingying in surprise and said, "You like that stewardess?" "Sure." Fang Yingying hurriedly covered his mouth and whispered, "Lower your voice, don't let anyone hear you." Fang Haohen pulled Fang Yingying's hand away. He didn't like others touching his lips. That was the most sacred organ of the human body to him. How could one eat without a mouth? If one couldn't eat, how could one live? It was too sacred. "Don't you think she looks sexy in uniform?" Fang Yingying asked in a low voice. His cheeks were slightly red, like a little boy who had just experienced his first awakening of love. Fang Haohen thought about it and shook his head. "No." "You actually said no? Don't you think she's sexy?" "Maybe she wears too much." Fang Haohen said with a simple and honest face. "Sexy women wear very little. It's all like that on TV. Fang Yingying opened his mouth and found that he couldn't refute. However, he quickly became happy again and said, "That's good. If you don't think she's sexy, you won't be my rival in love. Although you can't be the rival of the Casanova of Swallow Dock, you are my brother. I don't want to see you in a miserable state after a crushing defeat. Why would I fight with Junior Marshal Uncle for a woman? Miss Yi is the future mistress of our Fang family. I won't take her away," Fang Haohen said with a frightened face. "I won't do such a thing. Miss Yi isn't my type. I'm talking about me. I'm your rival, but you're talking about the Casanova of Swallow Dock. Junior Marshal Uncle is the Casanova of Swallow Dock. When Junior Marshal Uncle isn't here, I am." Fang Yingying's explanation was quite lacking in confidence. He said, "But that's not the point. The point is, how can I win her over?" "I don't know." Fang Haohen didn't have any experience in relationships. He didn't know how to make a girl happy. This kind of thing was too far away for him. So, when Fang Yingying asked him this question, his first reaction was, "This guy is an idiot. Why would he think of asking me this question of anyone else? I know you don't know. So I asked you on purpose." Fang Yingying said proudly, "If you don't have a smart brain, I hope you have excellent acting talent." Fang Haohen stared at Fang Yingying with a vigilant face and asked, "What do you want to do?" Fang Yingying's fat body leaned over and whispered in Fang Haohen's ear for a while. Fang Haohen's skeleton body suddenly shook. He looked at Fang Yingying with an extremely embarrassed expression and said, "You actually want me to act as a robber?" "I didn't ask you to act as a robber," Fang Yingying explained with a serious face. "I just want you to act as a robber, and this isn't a robber. This is a train. What do you want to rob? Rape? This is illegal. We can't do it." "Then what do you mean?" "You go act as a little hooligan," Fang Yingying said with a face full of excitement. "When my goddess walks over, you little hooligan will go up and tease her." "How do I tease her?" Fang Haohen asked. "Say some dirty things to her, touch her or something like that. Isn't that still rape?" "This is different from rape." Fang Yingying felt like he was about to collapse. "Why don't you understand? She had really succeeded in doing it. Flirting is when you think that the woman is beautiful, so you have some wretched thoughts in your mind. But this is only Only your moral character isn't up to standard, but it won't lead to a crime. The former might lead to jail time, the latter is normal. Normal? She'll slap you twice, Fang Yingying said in a low voice. But don't worry, I won't give her the chance to slap you. Before she slaps you, I'll stand up and righteously scold you for your bad behavior. Then I'll loudly tell you to scram, and you'll immediately leave. Where do I go? Hey, the train is so big, can't you sit for a while? Give us some private space, let's talk about our feelings. Maybe it'll be done, and you'll have a sister-in-law. I won't do it, Fang Haohen refused. Why? I don't know how to say dirty things. That's easy, I'll teach you, Fang Yingying said. He pinched Fang Haohen's chin with his chubby hand, smiled lewdly and said, Beauty, you smell so good, come, let Big Brother have a whiff, let go of me. Fang Haohen hated it when people touched his chin, so he slapped Fang Yingying's hand away. Yes, that's more like it, little beauty, don't you like Big Brother? Big Brother likes you a lot. At the door of the carriage, a beautiful police officer stared at the unsightly scene in front of her. Chapter 5:35. Fang Yingying had just gotten into the zone and didn't notice the strange gazes of others. He pinched Fang Haohen's chin with his chubby hand and said with a lewd smile, Don't struggle, don't resist. The more you struggle, the happier I'll be. The more you resist, the more excited I'll be. I like little girls like you. Come, let me have a taste. As he spoke, Fang Yingying moved his chubby sausage mouth toward Fang Haohen's lips. Sun Li couldn't stand it anymore. She strode toward Fang Yingying, who was acting like a hooligan, and shouted angrily, Hooligan, stop. It was like a basin of frozen water in the middle of winter, like a basin of boiling water in the middle of summer. This kind of feeling was too cruel, but it was also burning hot and peeling off his skin. Fang Yingying didn't expect that someone would keep staring at them, and it was the pretty policewoman that he had fallen in love with at first sight. Fang Yingxiong, who didn't have much experience in love, was dumbfounded when he saw her embarrassed and angry look on her face. She rushed over and looked like she wanted to beat him up. His body was stiff, the fat on his face was shaking, and his right hand was still pinching Fang Haohen's chin. He looked anxiously at the policewoman. He wanted to say something to explain, but his throat felt like it was stuffed with dough, and he couldn't say a word. Such a scene was too embarrassing. He wanted to explain, but he did not know where to start. Sun Li rushed in front of Fang Yingying because of her anger. After thinking about it, she took 2 steps back and kept a safe distance from Fang Yingying. She pointed at Fang Yingying and shouted, Hooligan, let go of your dirty hands. Let go? Yes, let go of his dirty hands. After Sun Li's reminder, Fang Yingying knew what he should do first. He let go of Fang Haohen's sharp chin and anxiously explained to Sun Li, I'm not a hooligan. You are a hooligan. Sun Li was so angry that her body trembled. She looked at Fang Yingying with disdain and said, Do you think I didn't see what you did just now? I don't discriminate against love between comrades, but if you force someone when they don't like you, it's a kind of hooligan behavior. Not only are you behaving like a hooligan, but you're also breaking the law. Fang Yingying glanced at Fang Haohen and said with a smile, Police comrade, you misunderstood. Misunderstanding? I saw you groping someone with my own eyes, and you still dare to say that I misunderstood? Do you think I'm blind? Yes, I did touch him. Fang Yingying explained with a serious face, but, police comrade, it's not what you think. He and I are friends, brothers. He's my brother, my biological brother, you're my brother, Fang Haohen said snappily. He hated it when people touched his chin. You're Fang Yingying and I'm Fang Haohen. Isn't the hero always ranked before the hero? Why should I be older than you? Yes. Fang Yingying nodded repeatedly. He pointed at Fang Haohen and said to the policewoman, Police comrade, did you hear that? I'm Fang Yingying and he's Fang Haohen. I'm his brother and we're actors. We're international non-famous actors. We're just fooling around. This is really a misunderstanding. Sun Li's eyes swept between Fang Yingying and Fang Haohen's faces and said, Are you two really brothers? We're really brothers. Fang Yingying nodded with great sincerity and determination. Sun Li looked at their faces again and said, "Take out your IDs." She still could not believe that these two people were blood brothers. How could blood brothers look like such a strange appearance? Fang Yingying and Fang Haohen looked at each other and had no choice but to take out their IDs from their pockets and hand them over to the policewoman. Sun Li looked at their IDs, and her expression became even more confused. Are these two really blood brothers? One was called Fang Yingying, and the other was called Fang Haohen? Their birthplace and address were both in a place called Swallow Dock? You two come with me. Sun Li's attitude towards the two became even worse. But Fang Yingying asked in confusion. We've both taken out our IDs to prove that we're brothers. Can't we joke around between brothers? I suspect that your IDs are fake. Sun Li said. Our IDs are real. Our identities are fake. Fang Haohen couldn't hold it in anymore. He stood up in front of Fang Yingying and said, "We're not actors, and we weren't rehearsing a scene just now. Fang Yingying wanted to pursue you, so he asked me to act out a scene with him. He said he wanted me to act as a hooligan who wanted to touch you. I didn't know how to act as a hooligan, so he personally demonstrated it to me. There's never been such a brainless way to pick up a girl." Fang Haohen, shut up. Fang Yingying wanted to block Fang Haohen's mouth. This idiot, how could he say such a thing out loud? Fang Yingying, you're the one who should shut up. Fang Haohen said snappily, "It's already like this, how long are you going to hide it? Don't you just like her? What's there to hide about this kind of thing? We're martial artists, and we do things to protect the country and the people. Chasing a girl, what's there to hide?" Fang Haohen looked at Sun Li expressionlessly and said, "He likes you, do you like him?" Sun Li looked at Fang Haohen, then at Fang Yingxiong, whose face was purplish red from holding back his anger. She opened her mouth and shouted angrily, "The two of you, come with me." Watching. The station police office. "Police comrade, we're good people. Look at my face. I'm so fat, how could I be a bad person?" Fang Yingying pointed at his fat face and said with a wronged expression, "Thin people are bad people?" Fang Haohen was very dissatisfied with Fang Yingying's argument and retorted, "Most bad people are thin people." Look at the TV shows, it's always Fatso who plays the good guy, hiding a dagger behind a smile. That's exactly what people like you, Fatso. Bam! Sun Li slammed the table, pointed at Fang Yingying and Fang Haohen, and scolded, "Can you two stop arguing? This is the police station. Is there anyone coming to pick you up? If no one comes to pick you up, I'll lock you up for a night." Seeing that Sun Li was angry, Fang Yingying's heart ached. He kicked Fang Haohen and said, "Fang Haohen, can you not always go against me? A man should have a man's elegance. Don't you know that you're acting like a child that hasn't grown up yet?" Seeing that Fang Haohen wanted to retaliate again, Fang Yingying quickly said, "Call Junior Marshal Uncle again and see where he is." When Fang Yen pushed open the door of the interrogation room, he happened to hear Fang Yingying yelling for Fang Haohen to call him. Fang Yen stood at the door of the room and smiled guiltily at Sun Li. He said, "Sorry I'm late. My two friends, did they do anything illegal?" Sun Li looked at Fang Yen and thought to herself, "This man is indeed handsome. Too bad, how could he be friends with two idiots like them? They didn't do anything illegal, it's just that." Sun Li thought about it and didn't want to pursue their other responsibilities. Although these two fellows looked strange, they looked silly, so they weren't bad people. So she looked at Fang Yen and said, "Forget it, there's some misunderstanding. Come and sign here and take them back." "Thank you," Fang Yen said gratefully. Fang Yen signed the document that Sun Li handed over and nodded at her. He turned to look at Fang Yingying and Fang Haohen and said, "Let's go." Fang Haohen stood up, walked in front of Fang Yen, and said respectfully, "Junior Marshal Uncle." Fang Yingying looked at Sun Li reluctantly and said, "Miss, I'm fine now, right?" "You're fine," Sun Li said. "It's time to get off work. You're no longer a police officer and I'm no longer your suspect, right?" "That's right." Sun Li nodded. "What do you want to say?" "I mean, can you..." Fang Yingying's fat face turned red again, like a heated braised pig head. "Can you give me your phone number?" Sun Li stared at him and said, "Why do you want my phone number?" "I think..." Fang Yingying hesitated for a few seconds and said, I'm not a good person, and I may often make mistakes. If I get your phone number, I can call the police directly when I make a mistake. That way, I can prevent my mistakes from becoming bigger and hurting innocent people. Fang Yan looked at Fang Yingying in surprise. How did he come up with such a shameless reason? Why do I always have a very embarrassing feeling when I'm with them? I'm just a police officer, I know. Fang Yingying nodded seriously. I often take the bullet train. The bullet train we met on, it's fine if there are hooligans causing trouble, but if there aren't hooligans causing trouble, I don't know how to find you. Sun Li didn't know whether to laugh or cry, and said, Who prays for hooligans causing trouble? Besides, why are you looking for me? I like you. Fang Yingying looked straight into Sun Li's eyes and said, Do you like me? Fang Yingying followed up with another question. Sun Li shook her head and said, No. Fang Yingying's face was extremely embarrassed, and there was an emotion called sadness in his eyes. Soon, he grinned again and said, I knew you would answer like this. Confessing to you on the first day we met seems a bit exaggerated. It's like a man who treats feelings as child's play. You don't know me yet, so you think you don't like me. If you know me, you'll know that I'm not the kind of playboy who only has a good appearance. Fang Yingying reached out to hold Sun Li's hand, but Sun Li avoided it. Fang Yingying clicked his tongue with some regret and said, If I can only say this to one woman in my life, I hope that the recipient is you. I like you. By the way, girl, what's your name? Chapter 5:36. Fang Yingying's eyes were wide open and round. The expression on his face was so sincere and serious. People say that serious men are the most attractive. For example, men who are serious about laying bricks, men who are serious about writing, men who are serious about repairing water pipes, men who are serious about cooking and washing vegetables, men who are serious about courtship or serious about making love. However, why does Sun Li always have a feeling that she will accidentally laugh? If she laughs at such a moment, it must hurt the man's self-esteem, right? However, she really can't stand it. She felt that Fang Yingying at this time was like a serious and cute Garfield. Thinking of Garfield's appearance, Sun Li couldn't hold it anymore. Pooh! She sprayed out the tea in her mouth and it splashed on Garfield's cute face. I'm sorry. Sun Li quickly took out a tissue to wipe Fang Yingying's face. Fang Yingying still maintained his original posture and let Sun Li wipe his face with the tissue. He said, Do you promise me? I'll take this sip of tea as a token of love from you. Sun Li threw away the tissue in her hand and said angrily, Why are you so thick-skinned? Spitting out a mouthful of tea is a token of love. Spitting on your face, does it mean that we have a French kiss? Because I like you. If other women treat me like this, I would have already spat back. Fang Yingying's face was covered with clear water stains. He looked at Sun Li firmly and said, Girl, you haven't told me your name yet. Sun Li. Sun Li hesitated and replied. Sun Li. A good woman is afraid of a pestering man. Under Fang Yingying's pestering, the policewoman finally said her name. Sun Li. Fang Yingying wrote down the name seriously and said, You look good and have a nice name. No wonder I liked you so much when I saw you. I introduced myself in the car, but it wasn't a formal occasion. My name is Fang Yingying. Fang Yingying looked at Sun Li and said, A square is a square place, and a hero is a hero who saves a beauty. Okay, I'll remember it. Sun Li waved her hand and said, You guys go back quickly, I'm going to get off work. I'll be back, Fang Yingying said. Goodbye, Fang Yan said with a smile. According to the rules in the sect, he was a generation older than Fang Yingying and Fang Haohen. Fang Yingying and Fang Haohen had always called him junior martial uncle. However, in his heart, he treated these two guys who were the same age as him as his own brothers. Su Wan also treated them as her own sons. According to the rules of normal people, Fang Yingying and Fang Haohen should be married and have children at their age. However, the reality was that the two of them hadn't even been in a normal relationship. He was really afraid that as time passed, the two of them would become more and more pleasing to the eye and get together. That would be a big deal. His mother, Su Wan, would definitely go crazy. Now seeing Fang Yingying take the initiative to attack a girl, Fang Yan was sincerely happy for him. If possible, he also hoped that the two of them could be together. Sun Li was beautiful, and her character was also very wild, which could suppress Fang Yingying's disease of being a slut. Look at him, didn't he find Yu Ro as his girlfriend? What am I talking about? Goodbye. Sun Li stood up. She didn't know why, but she always felt a little strained when facing Fang Yan. It was like there was something invisible covering the top of her head, making it difficult for her to breathe, and even the movement of getting up was a little stiff. Is this nervousness? But why am I nervous? Even when facing the leader of their branch office, I didn't feel so nervous. Fang Yan patted Fang Yingying's shoulder, looked at Sun Li and said, "He is my brother." "I know." Sun Li nodded. "He is a good man," Fang Yan said seriously. Sun Li understood the weight of Fang Yan's words. After thinking for a long time, she nodded and said, "I know." Fang Yan smiled and said, "Goodbye." "Goodbye." Fang Yan's car was parked in the yard. Fang Yingying saw the BMW and said, "Yo, Junior Marshall uncle bought a car. Principal Lu's car. She doesn't need it for the time being, so I borrowed it." Fang Yan said and walked to the driver's seat. Fang Yingying and Fang Haohen's eyes looked at each other vaguely. Fang Yingying walked over and opened the door of the passenger seat. He sat down and asked, "Junior Marshall uncle, where are we staying this time?" "Staying with me," Fang Yan said. "Of course we are staying with Junior Marshall uncle. We still have to take care of Junior Marshall uncle's food and clothing," Fang Yingying said shamelessly. "By the way, are we going back to school? Are we still staying in the small courtyard where we lived before? To be honest, that courtyard is really good. I have feelings for living there." "No," Fang Yan said. "In Plum Garden." Plum Garden was the villa community where Lu Chaoga lived now. Fang Yingying and Fang Haohen were also going to live with them. "It's not appropriate, is it?" Fang Yingying said embarrassedly. "I heard that Junior Marshall uncle and Principal Lu live together. Will we disturb you if we go there?" Fang Yan drove without looking sideways. He was afraid that if he saw Fang Yingying's current appearance, he would beat him up. He said aloud, "You must live in Plum Garden. You have to go there." Fang Yan was too familiar with the thoughts of these two guys. They were nominally his Marshall nephews, but in fact, they were more inclined to be Gentle's undercover agents. They kept saying that they were going to live in Rosefinch's courtyard, but in fact, they wanted to test the relationship between him and Lu Chaoga. If he was stupid and really let them live in Rosefinch's courtyard, Yi Gentle would probably be furious. What shameful thing did I do with Lu Chaoga? Why did she kick Fang Yingying and Fang Haohen away? Fang Haohen sat in the back seat, took out his cell phone from his pocket, and secretly sent a message. There were only 2 words in the message: Plum Garden. Fang Yan had long been accustomed to the betrayal of these two guys. He asked, "Why did you two come by train? Isn't it faster by plane? And you had a conflict with the police?" With a sad face, Fang Yingying said, "Some time ago, Yanjing held a world boxing competition. The Thai boxing champion, Ha Chai, was arrogant and domineering. He said that he would beat all the masters in Huaxia and show us the power of Muay Thai. Ha Chai took a plane to Yanjing to participate in the competition, but the plane crashed in Malaysia. So what if he is good at Kung Fu? Isn't there only a dead end for him? A martial arts senior once said that I should keep everything under control, so I only take the train. If there is something wrong with the train, we can jump out of the train. What if there is something wrong with the plane? Can we jump out of the train? It's too dangerous. It's not in line with the style of us martial arts practitioners who seek perfection and stability. We took the train," Fang Haohen said in the back seat. "If the train breaks down," Fang Ying turned back angrily and said, "Fang Haohen, shut your crow's mouth. I haven't settled the matter of you betraying me on the train. If I didn't tell the truth, you would have been locked up in the police station for hooliganism," Fang Haohen retorted. When Fang Yan took Fang Yingying and Fang Haohen back, Lu Chaoga had already prepared a large table full of food. The injury on Lu Chaoga's palm was almost healed. During this time, she often cooked, but Fang Yingying and Fang Haohen felt flattered. The director of Rosefinch Secondary, the chairman of Chaoyan Technology, was a goddess in their hearts. Now, she personally cooked such a large table of delicious food for the two brothers. Although they hadn't eaten it yet, they felt that the food was very delicious at first glance. Lu Chaoga wore a set of white casual clothes with an apron around her neck. She wiped her hands with a handkerchief and smiled at Fang Yingying and Fang Haohen. "Are you hungry? The room has been prepared for you. You can go upstairs to take a shower and change your clothes before going downstairs to eat." "Thank you, Principal Lu," Fang Yingying said gratefully. "Don't call me Principal Lu," Lu Chaoga said. "If you don't mind, just call me Sister Lu." "Thank you, Sister Lu." Fang Yingying immediately changed the way he addressed her. Fang Yen took Fang Yingying and Fang Haohen upstairs. Fang Haohen whispered to Fang Yingying, "She told us to call her Sister Lu." "Why are you calling her Sister Lu? Don't you think I'll look cuter if I add one more word?" Fang Yingying asked. Fang Yan's footsteps slipped, and he almost missed a step and fell flat on his face. This Fang Yingying, now he knew how to act cute? Fang Yen took Fang Yingying to the westernmost room on the second floor. He pushed open the door and said to Fang Yingying, "Hero, this is your room." Chaoga knew you were coming, so she prepared the room in advance. The bedsheets and bedding are all new. There are also some clothes and pajamas prepared for you in the wardrobe. The training clothes and cloth shoes are also prepared. If you need anything else, you can tell her or me. Hero's room is on the other side, and you two will live opposite each other. Fang Haohen pushed open the door to his own room, which was exactly the same as the one on the other side. The furniture was brand new, and the bedsheets were all new. There was a faint fragrance in the air, and they could see the beautiful scenery when they opened the window. "This is a luxurious house," Fang Yingying said with a sigh. "It's so comfortable," Fang Haohen said. Fang Yen saw that the two brothers were very satisfied with the place, so he said, "You two wash up and go downstairs to eat. I'll go downstairs and have a look." After Fang Yen left, Fang Yingying and Fang Haohen hurried to the same room, and Fang Yingying closed the door carefully. "Be careful. You must be careful," Fang Yingxiong said with a dignified expression. "This is a plot to sow discord. They want to bribe us and place us undercover agents around Miss Yi. I'm Miss Ye's woman, and I'm Miss Ye's dead woman. I will never betray Miss Yi." Fang Haohen hurriedly swore. Fang Ying nodded deeply and said, "That's right. But Sister Lu is also a good person. It would be great if Junior Marshal Uncle could marry two wives." Fang Haohen thought for a moment and said regretfully, "It's useless even if you tell me. We can't help with this kind of thing." Chapter 537. Whether it was Yi Rou, Lu Chaoga, or Qin Yitan who was also in Yanjing, they were all outstanding women of the present age. No matter who they entrusted their lives to, that man would be the most envied person in the world. However, things became complicated when these women gathered around Fang Yen at the same time. At least, Fang Yingying and Fang Haohen felt it was very troublesome to deal with this kind of thing. Think about it. If Lu Chaoga, Yi Rou, and Qin Yitan all fell in love with one of them at the same time, how terrible it would be. "I can't help him either." Fang Yingying shook his head and sighed. "It's not that we don't want to share the burden of Junior Marshal Uncle, but this kind of thing, the key is his own determination. If he likes it, we like it. If they don't like it, we can't like it either." Fang Haohen said. "Because they won't like us either." "That's hard to say." Fang Yingying had always been very confident about his charm. Women nowadays like ambiguous men. Look at me. Am I ambiguous? Women like dubious men. They don't like hugging a stove. You're a big stove. You will roast people alive. Fang Haohen, do you want to fight? No. Fang Haohen turned around and went back to his room. Fang Yingxiong was very angry. He took off all his clothes and rushed into the bathroom. Stroking his round belly, he looked at himself in the mirror and said, Why isn't this a flirting man? How come I am not an ambiguous man? Which girl doesn't feel warm holding such a big pile of meat? Fang Yingying and Fang Haohan took a shower and went downstairs. Fang Yen and Lu Chaoge were already waiting for them in the living room for dinner. Fang Yen purposely went out and called Qin Ying in. Qin Ying followed the rules and was unwilling to enter the house. Fang Yen smiled and said that if Qin Ying did not come in, he would not be able to secretly learn his martial arts in the future. Qin Ying was very anxious. He had been learning from Fang Yen for a period of time and discovered that some of Fang Yan's methods were very effective. He did not focus on punches and kicks, but on the depth and ingenuity of his strength. However, when the two of them exchanged blows, he didn't have the strength to resist Fang Yen at all. He always had a sullen feeling of being suppressed. He knew that Fang Yen was playing at a higher level than him and was greedily absorbing the knowledge. If Fang Yen really refused to let him practice martial arts with him in the morning, where else could he find such a good teacher? Isn't it just a meal? Qin Ying said with a flushed face. Even if I have to eat a bowl of sh*t, I'll accept it. Seeing Qin Ying's heroic appearance, Fang Yen thought of asking Fang Yingying to have a good talk with him when he woke up the next morning. It had been a while since he had seen a hero. He wanted to see if these two brats' martial arts had improved and if they were slacking off when they were at Swallow Dock. Fang Yen opened a bottle of Maotai and filled the glasses in front of them. Then he raised his own glass and looked at everyone present. He said, I haven't drunk for a while. First, there's nothing worth drinking. Second, I don't have the mood to drink. Today is to welcome the heroes and also to express my gratitude to Qin Ying for his hard work these few years. Let me give you a toast. After Fang Yen finished speaking, he drank the wine in his glass in one gulp. I just did what I should do. After Qin Ying finished speaking, he drank the wine in his glass in one gulp. Fang Ying and Fang Haohan raised their glasses and said, To Junior Martial Uncle? There's no reason. You're our junior martial uncle, after all. After that, they drank the wine in their glasses as well. Fang Yen poured himself another glass of wine, then said to Lu Chaoge, Here's to Chaoge. It's so nice to have you. Fang Yen didn't say thank you, for that sounded too frivolous and distant. If someone gave you a pound of apples, you had to say thank you. If someone gave you a carton of milk, you had to say thank you. If someone said something auspicious, you had to say thank you. If someone gave you directions, you had to say thank you. How could thank you express Fang Yan's affection and gratitude for Lu Chaoge? It was so nice to have you. Those words carried a lot of weight. In this world, who couldn't live without each other? Who couldn't live without each other? One had to go through a lot of people in life, and most of them would just brush past each other. Only one or two people would make you thank God and thank fate for letting you meet each other. Those people were the most precious treasures of your life. I just did what I wanted to do. Lu Chaoge looked at Fang Yen and said. He raised his glass and clinked it with Fang Yen. Then he drank up the white wine as well. She understood what he was going to say. She understood what he wasn't going to say. Fang Yen drank 2 glasses in a row before he put down his glass and said with a smile, Let's all try Principal Lu's cooking. Chances like this don't come often, Qin Ying said with a smile. I'm going to have a good taste. I'll have to eat more today. Fang Yingying and Fang Haohan couldn't stop praising Lu Chaoge's cooking. Their flattery made Fang Yen want to kill them. The 5 of them drank 3 bottles of Maotai. Qin Ying went out to patrol after he finished drinking. He seemed to be fine. Lu Chaoge was a little drunk. She said goodbye to everyone and went upstairs to rest. Fang Yingying and Fang Haohan were here, so Fang Yen didn't have to do the dishes himself. Fang Haohan went to do the dishes, and Fang Yingying went to make some tea. The 3 of them sat in the courtyard on the balcony and chatted while drinking tea. Fang Yingying and Fang Haohan talked about the interesting things in Swallow Dock. They talked about how the old man brought the King Kong eagle that Qin Yitian gave him to go around the village every day. He even started to train the eagle. The King Kong eagle had a strong personality, but it was very compatible with the old man. The 2 of them had established a basic communication method. They said that Yi Ro was in seclusion and they hadn't seen each other for a long time. It was said that she was about to break through again. If he broke through again, he might leave youngest martial uncle in the dust again, but they didn't mention the two important people of the Fong family. One was Fong Yan's mother, Luan, the other was the old drunkard. Where's the old drunkard? There's still no news from him? Fong Yan tried his best to sound relaxed, but the expression on his face was still too stiff. No. Fong Yingying and Fong Haohen's expression also turned serious. It's been 3 years since Master went to the Arctic, and there's no news from him. Zhu Ziden came back from Mo Bay 3 months ago. He said he went to the Arctic to search, and found no trace of Master. What else? He also said that the Arctic is not suitable for humans to live in. Fong Yan's heart became heavier. After a long silence, he said in a low voice, when the old drunkard left, he said to Grandpa, either we return home in one piece or we have a sky burial in Snow Kingdom, we owe him this. Junior Martial Uncle, is there really such a thing in the world? The ice dragon is a legend. To use the ice dragon's muscles to make up for the defects of the human body, this is impossible. That old guy, the medical fanatic, is not a good person. We prepared gifts for him, but he couldn't cure us. How could he use this mysterious pawn to harm people? He hasn't even seen it himself, why would he ask Master to find it for him? And even if he finds it, he still has to leave him half a pound of blood. He has taken all the advantages in the world. There are not many doctors in the world who are good people. Fong Yan's face was gloomy. He said, since the medical fanatic dared to write this prescription, it proves that there is such a thing in the world. I have seen the introduction of the ice dragon in the extraordinary medical record. It is shaped like a dragon and its skin is like ice. The book said that the blood of the ice dragon is extremely hot and can even burn the air. Hot blood can cure all diseases, cold blood can prolong life. But it did not say that the meridians of the ice dragon can make up for the broken meridians. More importantly, the ice dragon is rare in the world and can only be obtained by those who are fated. In the land of extreme cold, there is no human habitation and no plants grow. Except for those animals that can withstand the cold, there is almost no life. It is not easy to survive there, let alone to find an ice dragon that can fuse with the ice and snow in the vast sea of snow. The old drunkard was not the old drunkard at his peak. He only had moves but no energy to support them. At this time, the old drunkard was not even a match for Fong Yan. He went to that place alone with his spear. Not to mention finding the ice dragon, it was unknown whether he could come back alive. But no one opposed the old drunkard's choice, and no one stopped the old drunkard's footsteps. Because everyone knew that since the old drunkard said he would definitely go. No one could persuade him, no one could stop him. Unless he died. The old drunkard's surname was Mo, but he was a member of the Fong family. Fong Hui's legs were crippled, and Fong Yixing died tragically at the entrance of Swallow Dock. Although his 3 uncles were talented, they could not bear the heavy responsibility. Other than the young Fong Yan, the Fong family had no one to support them. At this time, someone had to stand up. Someone had to wipe the Fong family's name, someone had to shoulder the burden of the Fong family, someone had to protect the old, the young, the sick and the disabled from the wind and rain, as well as the murderous intent that could come at any time. He stood up, and stood side by side with Fong Yan. At this time, Fong Yan was in a difficult situation, and it was too hard. So, the old drunkard chose to believe the words of the medicine fanatic, and grasped the last straw of hope that was almost like a myth. Fong Yan knew that the old drunkard might not come back. But how could he say such words? He and the old drunkard were apprentice brothers, but they were like father and son. His Tai Chi foundation was taught by the old drunkard, his Fong Plum Blossom steps was taught by the old drunkard, and his Tai Chi palm, Tai Chi finger and Tai Chi 13 forms were all taught by the old drunkard. Many people said that he was a genius of Tai Chi, to be able to understand the heart of Tai Chi at such a young age, but who knew how much enlightenment the old drunkard had given him? A famous teacher produces a brilliant disciple. Without a famous teacher, how could there be a brilliant disciple like him? Fong Yixing died in battle, and Fong Yan felt extremely guilty. Because for so many years, their relationship as father and son wasn't harmonious, and was even a little indifferent. But Fang Yen and the old drunkard talked about everything, drinking, training, and commenting on the heroes of the world. When the two of them were together, they were more like father and son. Fang Yen had lost his father, Fang Yixing. Could it be that he was going to lose another important man in his life, the old drunkard? How tragic would such a fate be? Chapter 5:38. The old drunkard will definitely come back. Fang Yen said in a very firm voice. Fang Yingying and Fang Haohen were surprised. Fang Yingying asked, "Junior martial uncle, how do you know that my master will come back? Do you have any contact with my master?" I knew it. Although he didn't contact us, he would definitely contact you. In our family, he has the closest relationship with you. He called you? Oh, there's no signal in the land of extreme cold. He wrote you a letter. That's not right, there's no way to send a letter. How did he contact you? The old drunkard has come back. Fang Yen said. Already back? What kind of person was the old drunkard in the past? He was the Hua Xia Azure Dragon who dared to challenge the heroes of the world. What kind of person was the old drunkard later? He was a decadent and degenerate countryman who loved alcohol as his life. At that time, the old drunkard was long gone. His heart was dead. A hero with a white head, a beauty in her twilight years, this was more tragic than death. At that time, the old drunkard lived a life worse than death. Otherwise, he wouldn't have used alcohol as food to numb himself every day. The longer he slept, the less he thought. Maybe his heart would be more comfortable. However, he still stood up in the end. For the Fang family, for me and for you, he made the choice to go to the land of extreme cold. The moment he stood up, he came back. The moment he made the choice, he came back to life. No matter what the final outcome is, he is no longer the old drunkard. He is still the indomitable Hua Xia Azure Dragon in our hearts. Don't underestimate the enemy. A person is not even afraid of death. What else is there to be afraid of? So what if it's the land of extreme cold? So what if it's the invisible ice dragon? He will definitely drink the dragon's blood, take out the dragon's tendons, cleanse the marrow and repair the meridians, and return as the king. Fang Yingying looked at Fang Yen with red eyes, wiped his nose and said, "Junior martial uncle, when master comes back, you must beat that Hua Xia dragon got up, and Jiang Junling, he also bullied us." Fang Haohen gritted his teeth and said, "There's also Jiang Zhulu. He and junior martial uncle are fighting over a woman. There's also Bai Xiu. I feel like beating him up every time I see him. And Zhang Beinian, last time he looked at me sideways. There's also Li Xiaoing. He said that eating glass is an illness and needs to be treated properly. Li Xiaoing even asked me to lose weight. How am I fat? So what if I'm fat? Wearing their clothes and eating their rice?" Fang Yingying and Fang Haohen discussed enthusiastically, like children who were left behind to be bullied. They memorized all the names of their enemies and waited for the adults at home to come back so that they could take revenge. However, after being joked around by the two of them, everyone's depressed mood suddenly became a lot more relaxed, as if the old drunkard was really going to return soon. Not only did they look forward to the old drunkard's return, but they also planned what the old drunkard was going to do when he came back. Beat people, beat people, beat people again. Their schedule was very full. "How's my mother's health?" Fang Yen asked aloud. When he was away from home, Fang Yen was most worried about his mother, Lu Wan's health. During the 3 years of mourning in Swallow Dock, Lu Wan's performance was far stronger than Fang Yan's. Ever since she sent Fang Yixing away, she returned to her previous state of life. She read and wrote, drank tea in the morning, and took a walk at dusk. The difference was that she opened up 2 vegetable plots next to Fang Yixing's grave. Every day, she would go over to take care of it and talk to Fang Yixing's tombstone for a while. Her sadness was just right, and her nostalgia was buried deep in her heart. Not only that, she also comforted Fang Yen from time to time so that he wouldn't have to bear any psychological pressure. Lu Wan told Fang Yen that it was a great blessing and opportunity for the two of them to become father and son. It was so for Fang Yen and so for Fang Yixing. As a father, Fang Yixing did his best. As a son, Fang Yen was also respectful and filial. They didn't owe each other anything. It was just that their luck was too short, their fate was too shallow, and the time they spent together was too little. Fang Yen didn't tell her that he stayed in Swallow Dock to accompany his father, and also to wait for those people to appear again. He didn't want her to worry, because Fang Yen knew that she couldn't lose another family member. Now Fang Yen was in Huaqing, but he still called back every day to check on her. Every time Fang Yen asked, Lu Wan would say that she was fine, and asked Fang Yen not to worry about her. It was exactly the same reaction as all the other mothers in the world who received a call from their children. However, whether she was living well or not, only the people around her would know, right? My mother is very good. Fang Yingying said, she has a good appetite. She eats a small bowl of rice every meal, drinks a pot of flower tea every day, goes to the vegetable garden every morning, and recently she has been learning how to draw. She doesn't use her own study now, but the previous study of the master of the family. Fang Yen nodded and said, she told me to use it if I like it. There are too many traces in the study, and it's good to recall them when you have nothing to do. I'm not afraid of being hurt, but I'm afraid of feeling lonely and helpless. Miss Yi used to drink a pot of flower tea with my mother every day, but recently she didn't go to the study because she was in seclusion. Fang Yen smiled and said, she and my mother should get along well, right? It's strange. When other people come to visit my mother, it's usually the guest talking and my mother listening. But when Miss Yi comes, it's always my mother talking and Miss Yi listening. What's that saying again? Everything has its vanquisher. Slap. Fang Yen slapped Fang Yingying's head and said, what do you mean by, everything has its vanquisher? Do you know how to talk? Exactly. This is the expression of my mother and my future mother's love for each other. How can you say, everything has its vanquisher? Fang Haohen added sharply. That's my mother's love for my future mother. Fang Yingying touched his head with a face full of grievance. After a period of rest, the wound on Lu Chaoga's palm had healed, and the knife mark on her neck had completely disappeared. The golden chrysalis muscle-nourishing powder developed by Qin Luo, the medical king of the generation, was indeed extraordinary. Lu Chaoga began to take care of the affairs of Chaoyan Technology Group again. In other words, when Fang Yen and Du Qing joined forces to launch a counterattack against Jiang Junling, she had already stood up and become the sharp knife that pierced their hearts. After breakfast, Lu Chaoga was going to take Fang Yingying and Fang Haohen to work at Chaoyan Technology. Fang Yen transferred Fang Yingying and Fang Haohen out of Swallow Dock to protect the safety of Lu Chaoga and Du Qing. Fang Yen knew that Jiang Junling was guarding Huaqing, and both sides were deploying troops and making strange moves. Lu Chaoga was protected by the experts sent by the Qin family, but in Fang Yan's opinion, the defensive strength was still a little too weak. If the people who kidnapped Lu Chaoga last time weren't Qiang Longtan and Jiang Fengxing, but Jiang Junling personally. With the strength of the strange people around him, it would be very difficult for him to rescue Lu Chaoga. Fang Yen was also worried about Du Qing. Du Qing was the underground king of Huaqing, and logically speaking, there was no need to worry about his safety. However, Qin Hong had just experienced an internal conflict, and Jiang Junling was even more afraid of Du Qing, the local tyrant, and hated him to the bone. If he wanted to first get rid of this important general in front of Fang Yen, it would be very difficult for Du Qing to escape. Fang Yen planned to arrange for Fang Yingying and Fang Haohen to stay by Lu Chaoga and Du Qing's side respectively. If they were to keep an eye on her, it should be good for her to protect herself. Last night, Fang Yen had already told the heroes about his arrangements, so Fang Yingying and Fang Haohen tried to please Lu Chaoga in every possible way since early in the morning. They all hoped to stay by Lu Chaoga's side. Who wouldn't want to work by the side of a beauty? Moreover, it was a beauty that he was more familiar with. Sister Lu, no matter what, I'm going to stay by your side. I, Fang Yingying, don't have any other abilities, but I do have a body full of fat. If you encounter danger, this body of fat will always be in front of you. It can't be pierced by knives and it can't be broken by bullets. I'll guarantee Sister Lu's safety. Fang Ying patted his chest hard and said with a serious expression, you don't have any other abilities, but you're good at bragging. Fang Haohen immediately ridiculed him from the side. So what if I have a body full of fat? Other than moving slower, what else can it do? You still have the face to say that your fat can't be pierced by knives or bullets. Let me stab you with a knife and see? Let me try shooting you? Fang Haohen, other than eating glass, what else can you do? Do you know that this illness of yours will ruin big things? Sister Lu often has to go to some important events and often meet some important people. They are talking about business worth tens of billions, and you pick up a glass cup and eat it noisily. Those who know you will know that you're sick and need to be treated. Those who don't know you will think that you're crazy. Miss Lu needs an ace bodyguard with a good image and temperament, like me and Qining. If you go, you'll bring down Miss Lu's status. Du Qing is more suitable for you. He's the boss of a gang. When he's negotiating with people, you can pick up a beer bottle and eat it noisily. Don't you look majestic and prestigious? Who would dare to object to his conditions? Fang Yan glanced at Lu Chaoga and said, "What's the name of Du Qing's daughter?" "I think she's called Leah." Lu Chaoga immediately understood Fang Yan's meaning and said, "She's young, beautiful, and has outstanding abilities. She's the future successor of Green Cloud Group. Last time, Boss Du said that he wanted me to help her find a young and talented man to be her son-in-law. Yesterday, he even called me to urge me to ask if I found a suitable candidate. For such an important matter, how can I find a suitable candidate in such a short time?" "Leah?" Fang Yingying and Fang Haohen's eyes immediately lit up. "There should be information about her on the internet. You can search for it," Fang Yan said. Fang Yingying and Fang Haohen quickly took out their phones to search. When they saw Leah's photo, their eyes were about to spit fire. Fang Yingying beat his chest hard and said, "Sis, look. A young and talented man is right in front of you. There's no need to look, I'm the right person." Plop. Fang Haohen directly knelt in front of Lu Chaoga. When he raised his head, Fang Haohen's eyes were already filled with tears. "I didn't have parents since I was young. Fortunately, Master picked us up from the outside. Otherwise, I would have definitely gone astray and become a hooligan who would harm society. My body is sick, and I have to eat glass for no reason. I'm ugly, I'm not even as good as Fang Yingying," Fang Yingying grinned. Fang Haohen rarely took the initiative to praise himself. As he laughed, his expression froze. He shouted at Fang Haohen, "Fang Haohen, what do you mean by you're not even as ugly as me?" Fang Haohen hugged Lu Chaoga's calf and said, "I'm already so old, but I've never been in love. Other than you, no girl has ever smiled at me. Fang Yingying has a female police officer. He is a man who is loyal to his feelings and will not change easily. But where is my love? Sis, I want to fall in love." Chapter 539. Fang Haohen was sent to Du Qing as he wished, and Fang Yingying was taken to Chaoyan Technology by Lu Chaoga. Fang Yingying was full of grievances, but he was a man who was serious and loyal to his feelings. Since he had fallen in love with Sun Li before, he must persist in his feelings. He didn't even have a chance to refute. Fang Yan drove to school for work. The security guard was doing the same regular and leisurely work as before, checking the post. Fang Yan didn't stand at the school gate to check the post. Instead, he sat in the security booth, made a cup of tea, and read the newspaper. Life at school was very comfortable and leisurely. It was suitable for Fang Yan's state of mind to rest and relax at this time. 3 years ago, the heart of Tai Chi made a breakthrough. Fang Yan defeated Qinya Military Department and became a new star in the martial arts world. Because his father, Fang Yixing, died in the battle, Fang Yan's body was full of hostility, and the heart of Tai Chi was covered in dust. In the past 3 years, the heart of Tai Chi didn't make any progress or show signs of another breakthrough. Fang Yan wanted to know what the heart of Tai Chi would be like after another breakthrough. Fang Yan wanted to know what the heart of Tai Chi would be like after another breakthrough. The way of Tai Chi was to let nature take its course. The more anxious you were, the more you would retreat. The reason why Yi Ro could make another breakthrough so quickly was also related to her mentality of having no desires. Yi Ro could have no desires, but could Fang Yen also have no desires? Yi Ro believed in martial arts wholeheartedly, while Fang Yen pursued the great power that the breakthrough of martial arts would bring to him. Only with power could he protect himself and avenge his father. Stay calm. Fang Yen comforted himself countless times in his heart. When he was in Swallow Dock, facing his father's tombstone and the traces left by his father, it was difficult for him to maintain this kind of calmness. However, he could do it in school. This was a school, a place where teachers taught and educated people, a place where students absorbed nutrition and rich knowledge. This was a sacred place, so sacred that it couldn't be tarnished and destroyed by the scheming, violence, and cruelty outside. At least, that was what Fang Yen thought. Baldy walked over with a teacup in his hand and said, "There's nothing much to do here. You can take a walk around the school. The scenery at the Sparrow River is not bad." Ever since he saw Fang Yen bring his own teacup to make a cup of hot tea every day, Baldy also developed the habit of holding a teacup at work every day. He would take a sip from time to time when he was talking to others. This kind of behavior made him feel very cultured. Later, this habit became a trend, and everyone in the security office of Rosefinch Secondary came to work with a cup of tea. If someone came to the security office to work, they would often see such a scene. Baldy took a sip of tea from his teacup and said, "There are a few more brats who are late today." Wang Chang also took a sip of tea and said, "I've written down all their names. I'll put up a notice in a while. It's time to teach these brats a lesson." Li Daong raised his head and gulped down a big mouthful of tea. He said, "What are we eating tonight? Fish with pickled cabbage and chili? I think the dried pig intestines from second brother Lu's family are not bad." Pooh. Li Daong, who are you pooing? I'm not pooing anyone. The tea got stuck in my throat. Fang Yen glanced at Baldy and said, "Did I affect your performance again? Look at what you're saying. I'm just afraid that you'll be bored sitting here." Baldy laughed and said, "I know you cultured people like to see these mountains and rivers, so I mentioned it. If you don't like it, just pretend I didn't say it." Fang Yen stood up and said, "Then I'll go and take a look. Go. I'll call you if there's anything." Baldy said, "But nothing will happen. What can happen to our security office? Since you came, there's not even a hoodlum at the school gate. You say, if this goes on, will Principal Zhong remove our security office? Hasn't he been cutting the school's expenses recently? You think too much." Fang Yen said snappily. Zhong Dei was indeed cutting down on expenses recently, but it was all for some unnecessary research projects. No matter how much he cut, he wouldn't cut the security office. Zhong Dei and Fang Yen had the same idea. The safety of the students must be absolutely the first priority. Hee, it's good to hear that. It seems that I really thought too much. Baldy said slyly. He asked that stupid question just to sound out Fang Yan's mouth. If Fang Yan said he wouldn't remove it, then he definitely wouldn't remove it. Fang Yan stood up and walked into the depths of the school. The Sparrow River flowed quietly, and the surface of the lake was covered with a layer of gold. The Sparrow Bridge was still there, becoming the bridge that connected the two sides. Fang Yan strolled along the river. The trees were dense, the grass was long, and the soil exuded an alluring fragrance. The scenery was beautiful, and it made people feel relaxed and happy. Seeing that there was no one around, Fang Yen stood by the side of the Sparrow River and put on a Tai Chi stance, preparing to do a round of Tai Chi focused on the mind and not the routine. The body moved at will, which was why the heart of Tai Chi appeared. Concentrating, the Dantian fire ignited. Whatever he thought of, he would go wherever he thought of. His Tai Chi plum blossom steps produced plum blossoms in 3 steps, and his Tai Chi palm became the wind. He wore a green robe and had a jade-like face. When he was quiet, he was like a crane playing in the water. When he was heavy, he was like a roaring dragon. He lifted something heavy as if it were light, and something light as if it were heavy. He was sometimes fast and sometimes slow, sometimes hidden and sometimes visible. All his skills were now under the early morning sun. "What a natural Tai Chi!" a loud shout came. Fang Yen stopped and turned around. He saw the excited Ho Zhendong, the martial arts fanatic, standing not far away and sizing him up. "Why are you here?" Fang Yan asked. Fang Yan didn't ask how he got in. With the martial arts fanatic Ho Zhendong's cultivation, he could even enter and exit within the red walls, let alone a school. Baldy and the others could stop the gangsters and ruffians, but they couldn't stop an expert from the Jianghu. They probably didn't even know that a martial arts fanatic had entered, right? "I'm here to thank you in person," the martial arts fanatic said with a smile. "Thank you?" Fang Yan asked, puzzled. He didn't remember doing any favors for the martial arts fanatic. If possible, he wished that he had never met this maniac. "You are my enlightened master," the martial arts fanatic said, looking at Fang Yan with a smile. "I've loved martial arts all my life, and I like to see everything clearly. I've seen fists, palms, knives, spears, swords, rods, Shaolin and Wudong. I've wandered around and experienced hundreds of battles. Some have narrowly escaped death, and some have easily defeated the enemy. In the end, I got the word fanatic. Only when you love to the extreme can you become a fanatic. I like to be called martial arts fanatic." However, it was also because he was too obsessed that he went astray. Wanting to understand everything would only make people more and more confused. I want to find an answer to every question, but many questions have no answer. I open my eyes wide to observe the mountains and rivers, but I can't see the mountains and rivers in front of me clearly. Recently, I've been feeling upset and confused. I always feel that there's something I don't understand, but I can't find out what the problem is. By chance, I met you by the Pearl River, and on a whim, I came up with a question to test you. I didn't expect that you would give me such a surprising answer." Fang Yan looked at the martial arts fanatic and said, "Is this the reason you thank me?" "Because there's no solution, so there's no need for a solution. Because there's no answer, so there's no need for an answer." The martial arts fanatic laughed and said, "This is what your little girl friend told me. Your way of solving problems let me find a new way of thinking. Standing in your way of thinking and observing myself, I learned not to look. I don't look at mountains, water, or anything in the world. I don't look for it, I just chase it. In this way, sitting and observing myself, I understand myself better. The biggest enemy of mankind is themselves. It's just that too many people don't understand this." Fang Yan nodded with a smile and said, "Congratulations." For a martial arts fanatic, the flash of inspiration and understanding of ideas were more joyful than the happy event of the wedding night or the passing of the exam. Fang Yan was also a martial artist, and he was also ecstatic when he realized the heart of Tai Chi. When the heart of Tai Chi died, he was also sad and depressed, and it was difficult for him to face his family and himself. If someone could help him break through the heart of Tai Chi again, he would even be willing to marry, if the person was a beautiful woman. This is a big event in my life. So, I have to come here personally to thank you. I will remember this kindness for the time being, and I will return it in the future. You don't have to remember the kindness." Fang Yan waved his hand and said, "At that time I just didn't want to trouble you, so I solved your fairy flowers. As for the enlightenment you gained from my way of solving problems, it's also your own experience and good fortune, and it has nothing to do with me. If you really want to thank me, just don't fight with me anymore." The martial arts fanatic looked at Fang Yan expectantly and said, "The second purpose of this trip is to challenge you. You still want to fight?" Fang Yan's face became bitter. "I said last time, I'm no match for you. No, you're the most talented young man I've ever seen." The martial arts fanatic said, "If I don't fight with you to my heart's content, I won't be able to eat or sleep well, and my thoughts will be difficult again. In the end, I may regret it for the rest of my life." "I don't want to fight," Fang Yan said. "No one can refuse the opponent I choose." The martial arts fanatic said with a firm expression, "Or, we can fight in this school. Fight now." "Are you crazy?" Fang Yan was furious. "The school is full of students. If they see us fighting, do you want to tear the school down?" Rosefinch Secondary was also Fang Yan's school, and he couldn't bear to see this martial arts fanatic go crazy and tear down a good school into a garbage dump. "So, I'm willing to give you another choice. The martial arts fanatic said seriously. He took out a piece of white paper from his pocket and handed it to Fang Yen seriously, saying, "This is my letter of challenge. In 3 days I'll wait for you at the top of One Sword Peak. I want to see how much you've improved compared to 3 years ago." Chapter 540. Fang Yen didn't take the paper from the martial addict and said, "I already said, I don't want to fight. I don't want to fight with you, and I can't beat you. How can you be like this? I'm not related to you at all. What right do you have to force me? Don't you know you're being very annoying?" The martial addict opened his mouth and laughed. His smile was neither warm nor pleasant. His eyes couldn't even be found. He spoke with a proud expression. "I don't care if other people like it or not. That has nothing to do with me. I only want someone to fight with me. I like you, so you have to fight with me. I'm afraid I'll have to disappoint you. I'm very busy. I won't go to the One Sword Peak," Fang Yen said firmly, not wanting to give him even the slightest bit of hope. "I'm working right now. I can't chat with you anymore." Saying so, Fang Yen turned around and left. "Fang Yen! Ho Zhendong shouted from behind. Fang Yen turned around to look at Ho Zhendong and asked, "Senior martial addict, is there anything else? I saw you practicing Tai Chi just now. Although it was unintentional, I still managed to see through it in advance." The martial addict smirked. "If that's the case, the One Sword Peak tournament in 3 days will be very unfair to you. Boy, watch carefully." The martial addict Ho's eyes trembled a bit, then raised his right foot and stomped down. Pow! A dull sound was heard. The earth didn't give birth to lightning, the Rosefinch River didn't have any waves, not even dust was kicked up under his feet. The flowers were still flowers, the trees were still trees, the grass was still swaying, the green leaves were still swaying with the wind. It was as if nothing had happened, as if there were no supernatural phenomena like when a peerless master used his ultimate skill. But Fang Yen knew that things weren't that simple. The martial addict purposely told him to stop and watch carefully. If he only saw him stomp his foot, then he wouldn't be a martial addict, but an idiot. The martial addict saw Fang Yen practicing Tai Chi just now. If he wanted to show his fairness, he would have to show his true abilities. Sure enough, Fang Yan's guess was correct. On a big tree next to Fang Yen, a leaf swayed and fell. Fang Yen stretched out his hand and let the leaf fall into his palm. The lush green leaves turned yellow and withered when they landed on Fang Yan's palm. At the same time that the leaves turned from green to yellow, the tree with thick branches also changed. First, the leaves fell off crazily, as if they were swept away by a gale. Then, the originally sturdy tree branches also fell, as if an invisible giant axe was quickly chopping them off. Branches of different sizes fell to the ground, making crackling noises. Immediately after that, the trunk of the big tree also began to turn from green to yellow. After its vitality disappeared, the trunk burst open and fell to the ground with a boom, turning into a pile of wood waste. This scene was too fresh and too mysterious. Fang Yen watched helplessly as the first leaf fell. He watched helplessly as the branches broke. He watched helplessly as the big tree collapsed. It was as if he was watching a magnificent magic show, a wonderful magic trick. "Hitting the cow across the mountain," Fang Yen murmured. When we read martial arts novels, we often see the move, hitting the cow across the mountain. Because the name of the move had the word cow in it, many people mistakenly thought that the power of this move was ordinary. If it was a name like Nine Yang Divine Art or Heaven and Earth Great Shift, it would be obvious that it was the world's top kung fu. Shouldn't hitting the cow across the mountain be a skill that even the loafers in the neighboring village could use? You can't judge a book by its cover, and it was the same with kung fu. Even if it was understood from the literal meaning, being able to kill a cow across the mountain, this kind of kung fu could be called a miracle, right? Borrowing force to exert force, using 4 tails to move 1,000 taels of gold. This was already a profound kung fu in the inner Jianghu. If one could borrow force to transfer qi, it would be like how the physician King Qin Luo used a silver needle to perform the unpredictable divine Tai needle. That was also a beginner version of hitting the cow across the mountain. To be able to kill a tree 2 meters away from him with just a stomp of his foot like the martial fanatic did, this kind of hitting a cow across a mountain was no longer the hitting a cow across a mountain that the outside world knew about, but it was an upgraded version of their technique. If the target of his force just now was Fang Yen, what kind of consequences would there be? A real expert should have this kind of ability to turn something rotten into something magical. Using falling leaves as swords, using flying petals to hurt people, and even ordinary moves could bring out extraordinary power. The martial fanatic belonged to this kind of person, and this was also the reason why he was praised as Hua Xia's 7 fanatics. Hitting the cow across the mountain. Oldwood meeting spring. The sea of martial arts was boundless, but the path of seeking Tao was firm and long. When Fang Yen woke up from his deep thoughts, the martial fanatic Ho Jindong in front of him had already disappeared. On another tree hung a letter of challenge from the martial fanatic to Fang Yen. Fang Yen walked over and took down the letter of challenge. The calligraphy on it was extremely ugly. I heard that you are a young hero with great achievements in martial arts. I hope to have a duel with you. I will accompany you when you eat, I will watch over you when you sleep. I will follow you when you work, I will send you home. 3 days later, I will respectfully wait for you at the summit of One Sword Peak. Unknown but unknown. Fang Yen was dumbfounded. What kind of *T challenge is this? It's clearly a shameless threatening letter, okay? What is I will accompany you when you eat, I will accompany you when you sleep, I will watch over you when you work, I will follow you home. Isn't it just telling Fang Yen that if he doesn't duel with me, I will be like a follower around him, so that he can't do anything or say anything? Fang Yen really felt a headache coming on. If there was a character like the martial fanatic following him all day, it would really be a troublesome thing. You can't drive him away, he won't scold him, and beating him up is exactly what he wants. How much red packet did the 7 fanatics of Hua Xia receive from him? Why did they praise this kind of rogue to such a high position? Fang Yen rolled up the letter of challenge in his hand, and then with a flick of his finger, it flew into the water of the Rosefinch River. The paper was soaked by the river water, and then slowly dispersed and sank to the bottom of the river. I won't fight. Fang Yen made up his mind. When Fang Yen crossed the Rosefinch Bridge and was about to return to the security office, he saw that there were 2 groups of students confronting each other in the woods by the Rosefinch River. Students are young and impetuous, and quarrels and fights are common. But because of the school's strict rules, the majority of students resolve their small conflicts outside of school. So, don't leave after school, or see you in the school woods, has become a threat that the students often say. It's really rare to see 2 groups of people collide on campus, especially after Zhong Dei became the principal of the school. This kind of thing is extremely rare. One side only has 2 students, the other side has 5 or 6 students. It was obvious that the side with more people had surrounded the side with fewer people. Blocking people, this is also something that students often do. A tall boy stood in front of the group, his eyes fiercely stared at the boy wearing glasses in front of him, and said, Li Xiaochao, I'm warning you, don't have any ideas about Wang Yen, she is the woman I like. Mature men intelligently call the woman they like, girl. Only those children who haven't grown up yet will call their boyfriend or girlfriend my man, or my woman. She is my girlfriend. Li Xiaochao retorted. Even though he knew that the other side has more people and his only teammate is still trembling and hiding behind him, but the young man's face and dignity made him not willing to back down. Just because you say it's your girlfriend, then it's your girlfriend? The tall boy, very dissatisfied, said, I also said she is my wife. Does that mean other men can't chase her? She has always been my girlfriend. Li Xiaochao's eyes were red, but his voice was still firm. She's not your girlfriend. She's just with you for the time being. The tall boy tried to argue. Today I came to find you to talk about this matter. Li Xiaochao, take the initiative to break up with Wang Yen. But aren't you just asking nonsense? Didn't I just say it because I like her? The tall boy was clearly a bit impatient. Kid, is there something wrong with your head? I already said it so clearly, why are you still asking so many questions? Impossible. Li Xiaoqiao stubbornly said. The one Wang Yan likes is me, I also like Wang Yan, I will not break up with her. Li Xiaoqiao, there's no point in saying that, the tall boy said. We're all classmates, don't force me to hit you. If you hit me, I'll tell the teacher. If you tell the teacher, I'll hit you every time I see you. If you hit me even once, I'll tell the teacher. The school will expel you. Tisich, you think the school is run by you, you can expel me just because you say so? Li Xiaoqiao, you know, I have a lot of friends outside of the school. If they hit you, the school won't be able to find out that I sent people to hit you, right? Do you think anyone will believe you? Lu Yong, you're bullying people, so what if I'm bullying you? No one can be sure what kind of idiotic things you said or did when you were young. Fang Yan shook his head, walked out of the forest, and spoke to the two groups of students. Both of you, come with me to the security office. Lu Yong didn't expect there to be someone else in the forest, looked at Fang Yan for a bit and asked, Who are you? I'm the security officer, Fang Yan. Fang Yan smiled and answered. Let's go, we'll go to the security office and solve your relationship problems together. Lu Yong hasn't seen Fang Yan before, so he asked his friends in a low voice. You've seen him before? I've seen him patrolling the school gate, a young fatso boy whispered. Lu Yong finally believed him, smiled at Fang Yan and said, We're just joking, there's no need to go to the security office, right? Right, we still have class by. Saying so, Lu Yong turned around wanting to run away. Fang Yan grabbed Lu Yong's neck and said, I think you're missing a love counselor, I happen to be quite good at this. Chapter 541. Security Office. Fang Yan looked at the students standing in front of him and said, Tell me, what's going on? Li Xiaoqiao glanced at Fang Yan and lowered his head without saying anything. Lu Yong said with a smile, Teacher, we were just joking. Is it Li Xiaoqiao? There were countless high school students who fell in love, but the school had a rule that forbade relationships. Regardless of whether it was Li Xiaoqiao who was in the right in this conflict, or Lu Yong who was not in the right, they did not want their relationship to be known or involved by the school. It would be even worse if they were asked to go back and call their parents. Li Xiaoqiao didn't want to become Lu Yong's puppet, but he also didn't want the school's teachers or parents to know that he was in a relationship with his classmate, so he said in a deep voice, We were just joking. It's nothing. Fang Yan looked at Li Xiaoqiao and said, I know what you are worried about. But have you ever thought about it? If I pretend to believe that nothing happened between the two of you, after you walk out of my place, he will once again bring people to block you and separate you from your girlfriend. Your girlfriend's name is Wang Yan? What will you do then? If he agreed, it would seem that he was too irresponsible and spineless. If he refused, he and his friends might beat him up. Are you willing to accept such an outcome? Teacher, Lu Yong still wanted to explain. Fang Yan looked at him sharply and said, Lu Yong, I saw it all. Are you going to lie to my face? Li Xiaoqiao hesitated for a long time, then finally said, I'm in love with Class 9's Wang Yan. He forced me and Wang Yan to separate. Li Xiaoqiao, you idiot. Lu Yong cursed. If I die, you won't be able to escape either. Fang Yan looked at Lu Yong and asked, Is that so? Lu Yong and Fang Yan looked at each other for a while before saying helplessly, Yes. Fang Yan nodded and asked, Why did you separate Li Xiaoqiao from his girlfriend? Because I like Wang Yan. Because you like Wang Yan, you want to separate Li Xiaoqiao and Wang Yan? Fang Yan asked. Young people's views on love were so simple and direct. Because I like this person, so you can't be with this person. Because you like a dress, somebody else has to take it off. Because you like a sports car, others have to give up their sports cars. Because you like this earth, others have to move to Mars. Is that it? That's different, Lu Yong argued. Which aspect is different? Clothes are clothes, sports cars are sports cars, they're different from girlfriends. You mean, I can't give you the clothes or the sports car, but I can give you the girlfriend? From what you know, you can't even give up clothes and sports cars. Why do you think you can give up your girlfriend? That's not what I meant. I don't think I can sell my girlfriend. Then what did you do to Li Xiaoqiao mean? I just feel that Wang Yan and I are more suited for each other. What if after Wang Yan gets together with you, someone feels that he and Wang Yan are more suitable and wants you to break up with her? I fought him with all my might. Look, if you can't do it yourself, how can you expect someone else to do it? Fang Yan asked with a smile. Lu Yong looked at Li Xiaoqiao and said with an embarrassed expression, "This is my fault, Li Xiaoqiao. I'm sorry." Li Xiaoqiao didn't expect Lu Yong to apologize to him. Slightly surprised, he smiled and said, "It's fine. It's all in the past anyway." Fang Yan looked at Lu Yong and asked, "Have you given up yet?" Lu Yong looked at Fang Yan with a strange expression and said, "Teacher, don't teachers forbid students from dating? How did I openly discuss this issue with you guys?" "That's right," Lu Yong nodded. "If other teachers find out who's in a relationship, they'll either pull you to the office to scold you or ask you to write a self-reflection letter. Is it useful?" Fang Yan asked. "What?" If a teacher pulls you to the office to scold you, ask you to write a self-reflection letter, or ask your parents to come, can you guarantee that you won't be in a relationship again? "I don't think so." Lu Yong's face turned red and said, "This kind of thing, how can it be broken just like that? Isn't it too embarrassing?" "Then what do you think now?" "I think it's wrong to separate Li Xiaoqiao from his girlfriend. I will compete fairly with him in the future," Lu Yong said. Fang Yan nodded and said, "You can go back to class." Lu Yong looked at Fang Yan with a puzzled face and said, "Can I really go? You still want to stay?" No. Lu Yong waved his hand and said, "You won't tell our monitor about this, will you?" "Who's your monitor?" It's okay. Lu Yong hurriedly led his friends to escape. Lu Yong felt that it was too strange. Didn't the security guards like to tell things to the class teacher? How come the security guard didn't say a word and let me go back to class as if nothing happened? After Lu Yong left, Fang Yan glanced at the student standing next to Li Xiaoqiao and said, "You also go back to class." "Thank you, teacher." The boy was relieved. He bowed to Fang Yan and then ran away without looking back. At this time, there were only two people in the security room, Fang Yan and Li Xiaoqiao. "How does it feel to be in love?" Fang Yan looked at Li Xiaoqiao and asked. "Teacher." Li Xiaoqiao's expression was coy. He was not used to talking about love affairs with his teacher. "Every day, I have to make several phone calls, send countless messages every day, and frequently pass small notes in class. I want to buy delicious food for her, I want to bring her to a good cafe, I want to be with her all the time. I can't help but want to smile when I think of her, I feel very sweet." Li Xiaoqiao looked at Fang Yan with his mouth wide open. How does this guy know everything? I've also had the same experience. Fang Yan said with a smile. When he fell in love with Phoenix, it was the same feeling. He wanted to give her the best things in the world as long as she gave him a smile. Li Xiaoqiao was relieved. He blushed and said, "I don't know what happened, I just liked her all of a sudden. I know this isn't good, but I don't know what to do about it." "Why do you think this isn't good?" Fang Yan asked. Li Xiaoqiao was stunned for a while, then said, "The school forbids love, the teacher also said it would affect our studies. Do you think it's affecting your studies?" "No." Li Xiaoqiao said, "Every time I take an exam, I've always been first in class, in the past, in the future. What about Wang Yan? Her academic performance has never been very good. If your love doesn't affect your studies, not only does it not affect you, but you can also encourage each other and improve together. Would the teacher still use this reason to stop you?" Li Xiaoqiao blankly looked at Fang Yan and said, "Teacher, what do you mean?" Fang Yan smiled and said, "Actually, I don't mean anything. You're no longer a child, you already have your own thoughts. If we tell you what you must do or what you can't do, you'll have a rebellious mentality instead. I just want to tell you that you have to think carefully before you do anything. If you feel that what you're doing is right, that it's beneficial to your life and future, then seriously don't let them down. Don't let others down, and especially don't let yourself down." Li Xiaoqiao thoughtfully looked at Fang Yan. "I don't expect you to understand in an instant, but you still have a lot of time to think about it." Fang Yan waved his hand and said, "Go back to class." Li Xiaoqiao bowed deeply to Fang Yan and said, "Thank you, teacher, I understand what I should do." When Fang Yan came out of the office, he just happened to see Baldy running in from outside. Baldy glanced inside the office and said, Where are those bastards? What bastards? Fang Yan asked. They said you brought a group of students to the office. Did those bastards get into a fight again? Baldy asked with concern. Is everything okay? Nothing, Fang Yan said. I asked them to investigate something, and they've already gone back to class. That's good. Baldy was relieved. I'm just afraid of the students fighting. They're all hot-tempered kids. They won't hold back even the slightest bit. By the way, are you okay today? What's wrong? Fang Yan looked at Baldy cautiously and asked. It's nothing, it's just that someone wants to see you. Fang Yan thought for a bit and asked, Is it Su Chi? I've talked to that girl before, and I think she's not bad, Baldy, but I've already told her very clearly that Mr. Fang already has a girlfriend, and that she shouldn't have any delusions, and that she should study hard and improve every day, make herself better, so that she can find a better partner in the future. Fang Yan smiled and said, Just do your job. My job is to ensure the safety of the students and teachers in the school, Baldy said. Not just personal safety, but also emotional safety. Fang Yan felt that Baldy had the potential to become a philosopher. Mr. Fang, let's go eat hot pot after work? Baldy pulled Fang Yan's arm and said, We'll go Dutch. I won't take advantage of you. After work, Fang Yan drove back and found a black Mercedes-Benz following him. Fang Yan turned the car to the side of Swan Lake, and the black Mercedes-Benz followed. The car window rolled down, and a woman with delicate features looked at Fang Yan and said, Fang Yan, buy me a drink. Chapter 542. The Mercedes-Benz and BMW were very close to each other, so Fang Yan was not far from the woman. Fang Yan looked at this woman who was definitely not supposed to appear here and say such words to him with a puzzled expression. He asked, Did you find the wrong person? I am not looking for the wrong person. The person I am looking for is you. Fang Yan. Jiang Shangxin confirmed her stance once again as she looked into Fang Yan's eyes with an extremely determined gaze. Treat me to a drink. Why? Fang Yan asked. Buy me. Fang Yan felt that this woman was too weird. Buy him. She was the daughter of the Jiang family. If she wanted to drink, she should look for someone from the Jiang family. Jiang Junling or someone else from the Jiang family. She was Jiang Zhuliu's woman. If she wanted to drink, she should look for her husband, Jiang Zhulu, or someone else who was close to her. Buy him. Wasn't she clear enough? She was the thorn in Jiang Junling's side, the thorn in Jiang Zhuliu's flesh, and the mortal enemy of the Jiang family and the Jiang family. If Fang Yan's guess was right, they would push the blame for the tragic deaths of Feng Xing and Shangxin's father on him. Why did she ask the enemy who killed her father to treat her to a drink? Fang Yan's first reaction was that this was a conspiracy, a trap, and a honey trap. Fang Yan scoffed at this behavior. Who did they think he was? Was he the kind of man who would be easily tempted by beauty? He looked at Jiang Shangxin's pretty face seriously. As he was taller than Jiang Shangxin and his eyes were very bright, he was able to see the large patch of snow white at the collar of Jiang Shangxin's white satin shirt. Gulp, gulp. Fang Yan swallowed a few mouthfuls of saliva and felt a little thirsty. Because I couldn't find anyone else, Jiang Shangxin said. Her expression was gloomy and her voice was low. She looked like a pitiful child who had been wronged but couldn't voice it out. Fang Yan had not expected her to give such an answer. Based on her understanding of Jiang Shangxin, she was a very proud girl. To make a proud person admit that he wanted to drink but couldn't find anyone else. It seemed that this was indeed a well-designed honey trap. Fang Yan was too angry. He didn't expect his opponent to be so insidious and cunning. He actually used such a despicable and wretched method. Who did they think they were? Fang Yan decided to challenge his weakness. As such, Fang Yan looked at Jiang Shangxin and said, I'm fine with tea, but I'm not familiar with bars. Follow me, Jiang Shangxin said. As she spoke, she had already rolled up the window. Then he started the car and led the way. Fang Yan's fingers tapped on the steering wheel, and his body softly leaned against the leather seat. With a faint smile on his face, he said, How interesting. Seeing that the black Mercedes-Benz was about to leave his sight, Fang Yen stepped on the accelerator, and the car rushed toward the Mercedes-Benz in front like a stallion in heat. The King Bar. Jiang Shangxin parked the car at the entrance of the bar and stood there, waiting for Fang Yen to arrive. Fang Yen parked the car. Just as he got out of the car, Jiang Shangxin took the initiative to hug his arm. A strong fragrance wafted over. It was a very seductive perfume that Jiang Shangxin used. Fang Yan's sense of smell was very sensitive. He knew that this was not just a simple perfume, but also the natural body fragrance of a mature woman. When the two fragrances mixed together, it gave one an impulse to let one's imagination run wild. Furthermore, Jiang Shangxin was wearing a mid-sleeved shirt. When she hugged Fang Yan, a small part of her arm was in close contact with Fang Yan's body. When they were walking, their bodies would touch from time to time. As long as Fang Yan exerted a little force, he would be able to knead her into his body. Such a charming little beauty took the initiative to approach him without any precaution. Even if Fang Yan had the ability to remain calm and composed, he still felt a sense of defeat. He was afraid that he would accidentally turn into a big bad wolf and eat the little white rabbit in front of him. What was worse was that this woman was Jiang Zhiliu's wife. Damn it. Why did he feel so crazy and excited when he thought of this? Fang Yan dodged to the side and said, "Isn't this a little inappropriate?" "Everyone is like this." Jiang Shangxin held Fang Yan's arm and walked straight into the bar, not caring about Fang Yan's feelings at all. "You didn't approach me on purpose to get Jiang Zhulu to catch you in the act, right?" Fang Yan asked worriedly. A sarcastic smile appeared on Jiang Shangxin's face, and she said, "Fang Yan, you don't have to test him anymore. Given Jiang Zhiliu's character, he would pretend not to know even if he knew that I rolled around in bed with another man. What's the point of catching him in the act? Exposing his wife's affair with another man and letting more people know about it, then losing his dignity. Do you think Jiang Zhulu would do such a stupid thing?" Fang Yan thought about it and said, "Indeed, he wouldn't. This doesn't fit his style." "Would you?" Jiang Shangxin asked. "My wife wouldn't betray me." Fang Yan said, "You are really confident. Whoever snatches a good husband like me would cover their mouth and secretly laugh. Every 1st and 15th day of the lunar month, they would offer more incense to Guanyin Bodhisattva. It was still early, and there weren't many people in the bar. American rock music was playing in the bar, but it wasn't as violent and crazy as it was during the climax of the night. Fang Yan thought that Jiang Shangxin would bring him to the lobby of the bar or find a seat at the bar counter. Unexpectedly, Jiang Shangxin didn't enter the interior of the bar, but directly entered a passage at the side. There was an elevator at the end of the passage, and there were two bodyguards in black waiting at the door. When the two of them walked over, the bodyguards in black looked at them warily. Jiang Shangxin took out a black card from her pocket, and the bodyguard in black bowed deeply when he saw it. The other bodyguard immediately turned around and pressed the elevator button, and the door of the elevator opened to them very quickly. While Fang Yan was still thinking about where the elevator was going to take them, Jiang Shangxin had already pulled Fang Yan's arm into the elevator. Fang Yan's foot stepped on the elevator, and the door couldn't close, so it sounded an alarm. Jiang Shangxin turned around and looked at Fang Yan. With a flirtatious smile in her eyes, she said, "Are you afraid?" "Fang Yan, I thought you're not afraid of anything. I am afraid of death." Fang Yan said. Jiang Shangxin chuckled and said, "I am afraid of death too, so I asked you to buy me a drink. Don't worry, I can't eat you up." Fang Yan looked at Jiang Shangxin's eyes, and there was a trace of sadness that couldn't be hidden. Fang Yan finally retracted his foot. The door of the elevator closed and slowly descended. Clang. When the door of the elevator opened again, a deafening noise and rolling heat waves rushed toward them. Fang Yan was stunned for a moment, and then he understood what kind of place this was. The underground boxing arena was also known as the underground boxing market. In order to attract customers, some bars would hire some boxing experts to come over and fight. Every punch hit the flesh and the blood was boiling. In the process of killing and fighting, countless spectators screamed crazily, releasing the fatigue in their bodies and the hostility in their hearts to their heart's content. This was indeed a very good place. A place that was very suitable for Jiang Shangxin at this moment. It was also a place that was very suitable for Fang Yen at this moment. Although Fang Yen didn't like the murky air in the underground bar, he liked the passion and heat that collided with each other. He suddenly wanted to drink a large glass of cold beer that emitted the aroma of malt. He gulped it down in one go, causing goosebumps to rise all over his body, causing every pore on his body to stand on end. Jiang Shangxin brought Fang Yen to a tea stage at the side of the boxing arena and shouted at the waiter who was walking over, 2 bottles of beer. Fang Yen took a look at Jiang Shangxin and grinned. Sometimes, this woman was quite understanding. The waiter quickly served the beer, and there was a large glass filled with golden liquid. As it was filled to the brim, the foam of the beer was flowing out. Before he even tasted it, the aroma of wheat wafted over. Jiang Shangxin picked up a glass of cold beer and raised it to Fang Yen. She said, "Come, Fang Yen, let me give you a toast. Thank you for treating me to this drink." Fang Yen smiled bitterly and said, "It seems more like you are treating me to this drink. This is my first time coming to this place, and they didn't seem to collect money from us just now. In that case, thank you for drinking with me." Jiang Shangxin said. No matter what the reason was, she had already raised the glass and started gulping down the beer as she spoke. Her cheeks were exquisite, and her neck was slender. Women who came from wealthy families had a noble aura and elegant behavior. When she gulped down the beer like a man, the alcohol flowed out from the corner of her mouth, giving off a bold and sexy vibe. Jiang Shangxin drank half of the glass in one go, then she looked at Fang Yen and said, "Why aren't you drinking? Why aren't you drinking?" Fang Yen picked up the glass and took a sip. He said, "I feel that this matter is a little weird." "What's weird?" "The two of us shouldn't sit together and drink." Fang Yen said, "I mean, we have different standpoints. What are our different standpoints?" Jiang Shangxin interrupted Fang Yan's words. She stared at Fang Yen with a sharp gaze and said, "Do I have the same standpoints as Jiang Junling? Do I have the same standpoints as Jiang Zhulu? Do you think that I should look for them to drink together?" Fang Yen thought about it, raised his glass and said, "Let me give you a toast." "Toast me for what?" "To your compromise." Fang Yen said, "You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.